Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland transfer deadline day special part 1. I'm Gimli, and today I'll be joined by, first up, Mr. Welsh Justice himself, Jason Davies. Hello, Jason.
Hi, Paul, you right?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. What kind of mood you in today? You in a good mood?
No.
Okay, fair enough. Next up, it's Mark King. Hello, Mark. I can't hear him. He's waving, but I shall move on. And next up, it's Tom. Hello, Tom.
All right, pal, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. And yourself?
Meh.
Ugh, I can see you're a jovial bunch. And finally, it's Budget Jesus himself. Hello, Kris.
All right, Gimster.
Yes, so we're all here today, gathered roughly 6 minutes past 12 to see out the transfer window. We will be doing these every hour, and we've got new guests every hour, so it's going to be a little bit fun. I understand that most of you are probably quite angry. I know that some of you are hopeful, some of you aren't hopeful at all. But we're going to discuss everything as it happens. If there's a chance of anything happening, we're going to discuss it on here. We're also going to talk about other clubs and what they're doing. And also Arsenal if they don't strengthen in this window. So, Mark, we'll go to you first then. And what have you made of the window so far? Is Petr Cech the only signing that Arsenal has made this summer good enough to see us be competitive this year? I can't hear him. Okay, I will chuck that question to someone else. Tom?
What, is Petr Cech the only summer signing we're going to see? Well, probably, yeah, it's looking like. I mean, I can't see anyone else coming in, to be honest. Is it good enough? No, it's not good enough at all, to be honest. I really think we're one injury away from an absolute disaster, to be honest. So, if I think anyone's going to come in, I think it's going to be in the forward position, which in my opinion isn't the priority for me. It has to be cover, because if Colin gets injured, we can't rely on Arteta to cover for us, and it's going to end up being a bit of a disaster at the start of the season last year with what happened with injuries, and we didn't have enough cover to subsidise the spaces that we lost.
Now, Jason, I'll move on to you next. I was quite vocal with my tweets yesterday because, to be honest with you, whether it's a combination of anger and frustration, I don't know. But a lot of people are saying as well that Arsene Wenger is undefendable if he doesn't go out and sign anyone in this window, or anyone else, should I say, because we can't forget that he signed Petr Cech. You're a fan of the big man, as I'm sure we all are. But can you defend him if he doesn't go out and spend?
Oh, look, it's as with anything else, okay? I don't know what happens in the club, and neither do many other people, okay? Unless you're there in the office while all these things are happening, you do not know what the actual truth is. I hear plenty of people telling me this happening and that happening. You know, I got told Royce was a done deal to fucking Real Madrid. Well, what a bag of bollocks that turned out to be. Everybody keeps on thinking they're experts, but even if you know somebody inside the club, you're getting Chinese whispers back. We don't actually know what's happening. But on the flip side of that, unfortunately, this is the same old story. Okay? If, as a club, we are only after super quality players, then we're missing out on a trick. Because when you build up the quality of the squad, you don't just improve at the high end, you improve at the low end as well. You bring up the base level, okay? And that's what we're not doing. Now, you know, don't tell me Flamini and Arteta and Rosicky are good enough for a Premier League winning season. That's a laugh, okay? They can do a job for a couple of games, maybe 5 or 6, but, you know, they're of an age now, right? Colin, last season when Colin came into the team, he picked up a load of yellow cards earlier on, and then he calmed down, and a bit like a fast bowler, maybe gets his line and length, and then, you know, improved in his disciplinary record. But again, if he goes down, as Tom said, you know, I wouldn't trust Mickey Arteta over a 5 to 7 game period. It's not going to happen. And neither with Flamini, and I love those two players. You know, we started off great last season with Sanchez. We added a few good players at Debussy, Chambers, etc. But this year, Czech, a great start to the transfer window. The two young French lads, fantastic for the future. But we need players for now. And at this present time, I'm not even angry anymore. You know, it's the same old story as last year. I'm not angry, but I'm just disappointed and disillusioned because we're not giving ourselves the best chance to challenge for the title. We're not giving ourselves the best chance to challenge in Europe. We're not giving ourselves the best chance to really go forward and push this club to being a super club. You know, we got Bayern Munich in the European group stages. You know, you look at them; they can pull people off the bench who are top quality. You know, our bench decidedly looks okay, not great, not average, not great, and it's the same old story every year. You know, in fact, for me, as I said in the group last night, this is the worst transfer window since we brought Arteta in, and it's on a par with George Graham buying players for his own pocket. It's that bad. It's that bad. Unless you bring somebody in, it's shameful, to be honest.
Yes, no, I agree. Mark, have we got your sound back?
I hope so.
Fantastic, you're there.
Yeah.
So I found my next question at you then. Jace touched on, and so did Tom, the fact that if Coquelin goes down with an injury, and by watching the Newcastle game, you could see any of the tackles that went on at him could have been, you know, he could have sustained ligament damage. You know, it's treading a very, very fine line, and he is one of these players that, you know, he is going to get tackled. Now, is the fact that we've been so toothless in front of goal this season kind of detracted away from the fact that we need someone there to not replace Coquelin? Because I think if you ask the fan base, I think most of them would be happy with him in the team. I think most of them would actually say that he's probably the first name on the team sheet. But do you think that our lack of goals this season has distracted away from the fact that we need cover for his position?
Well, yeah, it probably did. It's a good point, but also what it did was it just highlighted the paucity of options up front. I just think the problem we've got at the moment is that we have too many options that are not the actual answer, but it gives Arsene the excuse of saying, well, with Giroud and with Sanchez and with Theo, you know, we'll be all right up front. Well, you know, I don't think we will be. I think you need a different type of centre forward. Now, Theo ideally would be it because he's got the mobility and the pace to get in behind. And I think it was a good point about the Newcastle game was no one else would have got to the rebound from Alexis's shot except Theo. But having got there, he, you know, fucked up a fairly easy chance. So, you know, that's the problem we've got with Theo, is that Theo will get there, but I'm not convinced he'll ever be clinical enough. But yeah, I think it has taken people's eye off the ball, but I'm not completely convinced that we were ever really looking for another DM. And we were very focused maybe on getting a centre forward, but possibly stuck all our eggs in one basket with Benzema.
Yes, it seems like that's been the ongoing one this summer. I don't think that there was as much substance to that deal as everybody made out. Kris, I know you watch a lot of Spanish football, and we've spoken about the whole Benzema deal. Surely this is something that I don't think anyone's saying that the interest was never there, because even, you know, I'm sure Mark hears things, Tom, Jace, we all hear things connected to the club. However, I don't think that there was ever a bid. And I think that the story was dragged on by various media outlets and ITKs. What do you make of the whole deal itself?
It's hard to say, Kim. I mean, like Jay said, it's hard to know what was really going on. The one thing that does puzzle me a little bit is if Benzema really was, keen to sort of stay at Real and it was his home, etc. I'm not 100% sure why he decided to leave it for pretty much 2 months before he came out and said, "I'm happy, I'm staying." Yes, there was some broken quotes flying around that he'd already said, "I'm happy here," and Perez sees him as sort of his boy and his project, and he wanted him to stay. But the fact that he didn't come out publicly until recently would suggest to me that maybe there was some contact. I'm sure there was contact. I mean, we're pretty much told or taken for read that the club talk to people all the time. I'm sure all clubs are talking all the time, and that this is where the tapping up thing goes. I'm pretty sure that the deals we hear about are not always, they don't always happen in a day. I'm sure there'll be clubs tapping each other up constantly throughout the year. So I'm sure we did make inquiries. I'm sure that we were keen on Benzema because who wouldn't be? But I'm sure we weren't the only ones. And I suppose, like Mark said, my only concern really would be if he was the number one target. I think we've said this probably before. Do we not have backups? It's all very well saying, well, he is the one we really want, but surely we should probably have 3 or 4 backups in the back pocket. So if that doesn't go through, we can go, okay, that's not going to happen. Let's turn our attentions to someone else. But then on the flip side, and again, this is not defending the club or us in any degree, but it's just looking at it from another perspective. Maybe he was given reason to believe that it was a possible deal, and that maybe he was strung along, or the club was strung along. Which it sounds a bit bizarre to think that could happen, but I'm sure it happens in all walks of life in all different businesses. So the truth is, we don't know, but I think we were interested. I think that much is definitely true. But how far along did it go? Who knows?
And Jace, I'll come back to you now, and I'll ask the question. Now, a lot has been said of the money that we have in the bank. We've moved stadium, and we were all fed the line that when we came to the Emirates, it was going to be a little bit of a struggle at first, but then there would be money there to be able to compete with any club in Europe. So why do we find ourselves sat here on the last day of the transfer window, and nobody can knock Mesut Ozil or Alexis Sanchez or even Petr Cech, even though you could argue Petr Cech was pretty much served on a plate to us. But my main question is, why are we sat here with money in the bank this late in the day?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. You know what I mean, Mark? Look, I find all this AKB, Wenger out, ITK bollocks, I find it all very wearing. I couldn't give a shit. I couldn't give a damn, okay? People are due their opinion. When it gets silly, I just switch off. I don't care. I don't run £1 billion football club. I can't honestly tell you what happens behind the scenes. I don't think many people can honestly tell you, because even within that organisation, you get certain people specialising in certain areas and so forth, as with any business. But the one thing I don't understand, if you look at the Premier League, if you look at Europe, it's all about competition, and even within those squads, it's about competition. It's about raising the bar, okay? And just to bring in Petr Cech, and not to strengthen other areas of the team, I find bizarre. I keep on hearing, "Oh, Santi's first name on the team sheet. What a bag of bollocks." Coughlin's first name on the team sheet. But what a bag of bollocks. Alexis Sanchez, first name on the team sheet. Undroppable, these people are called. It's a load of crap. You buy in better players, you leave them compete. And whoever is playing best gets the spot. If you buy in a DM with a better passing range and is a bit quicker and a bit more mobile than Coughlin and plays better than him, then Coughlin's on the bench, or they can play together. Who knows? But you have to reinvest and refresh the squad. You have to do it, because otherwise it gets stale. Look at Oli Giroud. Last season he came back from injury. He's chucking himself about. He's been a real handful for defenders, and he gets goals galore when he comes back. Then he becomes complacent again, and it looks like he started the season like that. Theo's got his brand new contract. Oh, he's happy again. He's not as brave as he was last couple of games of last season. Talk about overrated. And I think these players have got the talent. I think they have got all the attributes to become great. But, all of a sudden, Ox has become the second coming of Jesus. Well, his passing ain't good enough, and all too often he plays head-down football instead of heads-up football. You need to bring fresh players in to knock the status quo and to incite some competitiveness in this squad. And we're just not doing it. Now, for all the excuses the club can give us, or the quality of players not out there, well, if you're only looking at 2% of the players in Europe and South America, all over the world, you're still looking at a hell of a lot of players. So there should be people out there to come in who can compete and actually make a difference within that squad. As to why this has happened, I can't tell you. There may be some very genuine reasons, but at the moment they don't make sense to me.
No. And if we're talking about playing the blame game, Tom, I'll come to you. If we do fail to sign anyone this window, where does the blame go to you?
Oh, I'm not sure you can put a blame specifically on one person in the club, because at the end of the day, Wenger's come out and said he's got a big team of people behind him to deal with transfers, and he's the portrait of those people. He's the one who gets all the flack because he's the manager, and some might say that's fair enough. But for me, I think, and it is only my opinion, and I can only say what I'm thinking, because at the end of the day, I know just as much as a Venezuelan with big tits out there. So for me, it's going to be that he's set aside a list of targets of what he wants, and if they're not available, he's not going to compromise. That's not the type of person he is. He's not going to bring the next level down, because at the end of the day, people have moaned at him for years for bringing in second-grade players, and they're not working out, or some of them have worked out, and he's been moaned at for doing that. So now he's changed his ways, and he's brought in the likes of Ozil and Alexis and Cech, who are all top-class players, and he's still going to get moaned at if he doesn't bring someone in. But for me, the players that he wanted haven't been available. They haven't been available to us. You're not going to bring in someone like, people have used the example of Pedro, for example. We should have brought Pedro in. Well, for me, Pedro doesn't come in and take Oxlade-Chamberlain's place. He's playing very well for Chelsea at the moment, but he could have come into a different team like ours and played completely different. I mean...
Hold up, Tom, sorry. Pedro is a World Cup winning player. Oxlade-Chamberlain's hardly started for the Arsenal.
So is Mehl. He gets loads of flack for...
Ah, come on. Don't give me the Pedro doesn't start ahead of Oxlade-Chamberlain. Now we're making excuses because that's rubbish. Sorry, mate. But, Pedro is a World Cup winner. He's won the Champions League. He's won a damn sight more than the Arsenal have in the last 10 years.
Yeah, but that's because he plays for Barcelona.
I think you've also got to say as well, I've heard from my rants on Twitter yesterday, a lot of people have come out and said that these players just simply aren't available. The players to strengthen Arsenal simply aren't available. And my argument with that being, with our team of scouts, with our scouting network, who, we've got scouts in every corner of the globe, are you telling me that it's difficult to find someone that could come in and strengthen our team? And my main argument would be, you're not maybe looking at someone that's going to come in the first team, but surely if you sign someone that's better than Arteta and Flamini, then you've strengthened your team overall, because the backup is there. Now, Mark, what do you say to those people that say that these players aren't available?
I'd say to them, you look at Stoke. Yeah. Now, Bojan, Shaqiri, Afellay, I'm not suggesting that these are the players that are at the level that we should be looking at. But what I am saying is that in world football now, there is no league with more money than the Premier League, and this is only going to get worse from next year. Yeah, we can pay huge wages in the Premier League and attract talent from anywhere. You're not trying to tell me that Stoke brought those players to the city and showed them round and showed them their immense history and their lovely style of playing football, and they were like, yeah, this is the move for me. They've gone there because they're going to get paid shitloads of money, and all three players maybe had issues that they were getting over for whatever reason, but they've still ended up there. So people need to remember that we're talking about the Arsenal. We have so much going for us as a club and can offer players so much. Yet, as you said, in all of world football, we cannot find a DM that can come to the club and cover Coquelin. And I'm talking about, if I had the opportunity, I love Coquelin, but I would buy a better version than Coquelin and have Coquelin be the cover or the competition or the second DM in certain games. But we could not find somebody who could come in and provide better cover than Arteta. And everyone knows my views on Arteta. And Flamini as well, who hopefully, well, he can't go now. It's a bit of a shame he didn't get rid last night, but there you go. That were better covered than those two. And the similar thing, I mean, you say Arsene Wenger doesn't compromise. Well, he compromised when he bought Welbeck, because Welbeck wasn't on his list of players and only came available to Arsenal on virtually deadline day last season. And he's taken a punt on Welbeck, and 16 million quid. Has he been a roaring success? I'd say the jury's still out. He's been injured a lot. Where the hell is he at the moment? So he does take chances, and he can compromise, but it doesn't appear, I know we've got a few hours left, but it doesn't appear that we're doing anything at the moment to improve the squad. And I've seen this argument about, our best 11 can compete. Yeah, our best 11 can compete, but when do we ever keep our best 11 playing consistently enough to do that? And you need to be able to rest them. You know, they're not going to last the whole season playing in 3 competitions. If we ignore the League Cup, you're playing in 3 competitions. It's just not going to manage it. They're not the sort of players. Look, you know, Shad hasn't come in and waved the magic wand and now there's no more injuries forevermore. It's just ridiculous. So and when you talk about blame, the man in charge is Arsene Wenger. He selects the players that he wants the club to go out and buy, and then they should go off and do that business. And if there is no business done, then I'm sorry, I would hold him accountable, because he is not giving them a list of players comprehensive enough to find a solution to a problem. And if he thinks that just doing nothing and going with the squad he's got for the next four months is the right answer, I just think that's wrong.
No, I agree with you. Kris, would you like to follow up on that? I mean, there's been a lot of players moved this summer that I think personally could have done a job for our club. We talked on podcasts, I remember, about Vidal. He could have done a job. I mean, we're not talking like the money isn't there, that we can't go out and offer these players big contracts. I know it doesn't fit in with the wage structure, which is what people will argue, but you've got to look. I think, is it next year when the TV money comes in, even the team that finishes 20th in the league will still get something like £200 million? I mean, so surely you've got to look at that and you've got to say the competition for these players next year will be even greater. You've got people like your West Broms that can go in and take their, the type of player that they're looking for to the next level. You know, we are going to find it even more difficult to strengthen our teams in the way which we'd like. Have we missed a massive trick by not doing any business or any proper business so far?
It's a hell of a loaded question. I mean, yeah, we probably have. I mean, I'm kind of in the camp that I'm not going to be throwing things at the telly if we don't bring anyone in. I'm a little bit more, I just feel like I'm more kind of accepting of the fact. And I know that, some people will immediately jump on that, go, you're a fucking problem with this club. Well, I'm not at all. I just support the club that I've got and the players we've got, and that's what I'll always do. And if we bring in some more players, then that's great. But have we missed out on some? Yeah, we probably have. But are there reasons behind it? Yeah, there probably are. As Jay said, I don't think we'll ever really know the reasons why. I mean, the one you mentioned there, Vidal. I mean, I was on record, and I'll say again, I would have loved him in our midfield. And then you get these pillocks that come out and go, well, he's a bit rash. He'd get sent off in the Premier League. Oh yeah, of course he would, because we really know that without seeing him play.
Also, these people that went, all of that business with him speeding or whatever it was over in Chile. Arsene Wenger looked at that and he went, no, I'm not going to touch him.
Of course, but he didn't. Hey, boys, but he fucking didn't, did he? You're talking through your arse, lads. The guy's fighting before fighting in a nightclub before Juventus Roma game. Of course, Arsene Wenger's not going to go and spunk 28 million quid on a clown who's fighting in a nightclub.
But he's fucking world class, Jason.
That doesn't matter. Boys, did we buy him? Did we buy him?
We've
Did we buy him?
No, we didn't.
We've got a striker who
fucking
cheated
wrong,
on his
innit?
wife in a public
Fucking
affair.
wrong, boys.
But you've got to
doesn't
ask the
matter.
question, why,
Did
Jason?
you
Why
not
didn't
ask
we buy
that?
him? It's fucking incompetent.
How is that?
And it's
How is-
inexcusable.
Of course it's something to do with it. It's about professionalism. Look at what he's doing, okay? Arsene Wenger doesn't want some big-time Charlie coming into the club, okay?
So why did Bayern Munich take the punt on him then? Because Bayern Munich aren't any mugs.
Ask Pep Guardiola. Ask Pep Guardiola.
But he must be mucky as well then, Jace, because obviously if Arsene Wenger didn't want him, then there must have been something wrong with him, but he still walked into a top club, didn't he?
Hey,
It's fucking
not my issue.
inexcusable.
You look at Arsene Wenger's character, okay, and look at that's how you got to look at it, boys. It's just the way it is. I told you he wouldn't come to us. He didn't come to us. It's as simple as that. And you can moan and wank about it all you want, but he's there. Should we? Other teams have managed to strengthen, okay? We should strengthen as well, okay? But stop pissing and moaning about stuff that's gone. We've got to look at where could we have really made a difference. You buy a Lars Bender, that's a guy who comes in and improves your squad.
You can't buy Lars Bender, Jace. You can't buy Lars Bender because the guy is the captain of Leverkusen and he doesn't want to leave. You can't buy a player that doesn't want to leave.
Chuck 40 away.
They wouldn't accept it.
Apparently, Kevin De Bruyne wasn't leaving Wolfsburg.
That was bollocks. He was always going to go if the money was right, because Wolfsburg were quite happy to take that money. And Wolfsburg are rich.
Yes, so would Leverkusen then. You can't contradict your own argument in the same sentence. If you've got the money, if you want to go out and if you badly want these players, you go out and get them. You know?
What are Chelsea doing with John Stones then? You look at John Stones. Everton don't want to sell him. They're being offered near £40 million for a 20-year-old centre-back, and they don't want to sell. And Roberto Martinez came out the other day and said this is no longer the age of football where the smaller clubs can just clip their toes for the bigger clubs.
But that's because they got the Premier League money coming in next season. They don't have to, okay? Hey, there are other clubs out there. There are other players out there. Right? We've missed a massive trick this season, this off-season, boys. We've missed a massive trick. Don't tell me Pedro doesn't get in ahead of Oxlade-Chamberlain. He's part of he was. Oh, for fuck's sake!
I don't, James.
Yeah, all those Champions League medals.
Well, there was a queue of clubs signing up for him, wasn't there too?
He didn't contribute to any of that. Then, obviously, what's Oxlade-Chamberlain?
Of course he did.
Then
he's
got a couple of England caps. Boys, he can't even get in ahead of Ramsey half the time. So Pedro's not going to take his place. Somebody's having a draft here.
But you can't.
Somebody's having an absolute draft.
If you talk about Champions League medals, you say there's that stat. Okay, Stoke have the most Champions League winners than any other team in the league. That doesn't mean they're going to win. They have Arnautovic, who got a Champions League medal by default.
You were talking about. You made the comparison of Pedro doesn't get in ahead of Oxlade-Chamberlain. Yeah. Well, Oxlade-Chamberlain doesn't start most of the time anyway, so he doesn't make the bench. Stop talking crap to me, boys.
Okay. Let's put it another way, right? I'm not saying that on ability alone is Pedro a better footballer than Oxlade-Chamberlain. Yes, 100%. But under Arsene Wenger and under Arsenal, Pedro does not get in ahead of Oxlade-Chamberlain. End of story. Because that's how Arsene Wenger sees it.
But he hasn't bought him. He's not going to get it. But don't be funny, boys. You're closed yourselves off. Every time you say a player cannot get in our squad or is not fit to get in our first 11, you do not know that.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that in Arsene Wenger's world or in Arsene Wenger's mind, whether you think he's right or wrong, he wouldn't bring in. Same with what Mark's saying there about, he would bring in a better Coquelin. Whether you agree with that argument or not, and I'm not saying Mark's right or wrong. I think there's perfectly good argument to say he's absolutely right to bring in an upgrade on Coquelin. But in Arsene Wenger's mind, he won't do that. He's already said, I put my faith in Coquelin. He's proven me that he can do the job. So I'm not going to bring in a player who is going to, not compete. That's different. But he's not going to bring in a player who's going to take his place.
But somebody in that boardroom needs to speak to Arsene Wenger and said, you put your faith in Gail Clichy. You put your faith in Danielson. Okay, and look where that fucking got us.
Yeah, but there's many other managers that have done that, and they don't all come out smelling the roses, do they?
I've got no problem with Arsene Wenger making mistakes. It happens. He's a human being, the same as we are. But we've gone out. We start off. We buy Peter Cech, and then we've done nothing. We've done fuck all. Okay, and that That's incompetent.
It doesn't mean, yeah, but that's a statement in itself, because you don't know we haven't done anything. It's just that we haven't.
How many players have
anyone.
signed since
No, that's
January?
what I'm saying. We haven't brought anyone in. That doesn't mean we've done nothing.
So what you're saying is then that our negotiating team are ineffective at their jobs.
No. What I'm saying is that we could be in for clubs or in for players that clubs have turned down bids, or that we've not got the players that we've gone after. It doesn't mean we're doing nothing.
So we haven't done our homework properly and gone up and got.
No, that's not the case, Jason. If a player doesn't want to sign for Arsenal because he wants to go somewhere else, there is nothing Arsenal can do about that. Nothing. And if a club doesn't want to accept our bid because they know that another club is going to bid, or because they'd rather sell to a different club, there is nothing Arsenal can do about that. That's just a fact.
You can offer more money. You can.
Well, what's the point? All right, so you become Man United and you pay £36 million for an unproven 19-year-old.
Guess what? Okay,
we can't afford to do that.
Of course we can. We got the new Premier League money coming in next year. You've got to understand. Okay, the face of football has changed, and this club has to change with it. Right? This club has to change with the changing face of football. And if you don't, what's going to happen? We're going to fall behind. And this season, we started well, and then we've lagged behind again. You tell me, do any of you honestly believe we're going to win the title this season?
I think we'll compete, yeah.
I think if you'd asked me that question a month ago, I would have said yeah. But now, since everyone else has strengthened, I don't think we will compete as well as we would have done a month ago. But since Chelsea have brought in more backup, and it is backup, it's not. That's what it is, and they now have more squad depth, and that's what will win titles. People have been saying we need to score goals. But I'm sorry, but strength in depth and defence is what wins you titles. It's not. It's not about bringing in a 30-goal a season striker. That'll win you games. But I'm sorry, but defences and strength and depth is what is going to win you a title, and that's why the other teams can compete much better now than they would have done a month ago.
This is the point. There are players out there who can compete with Coquelin, who are better than Coquelin. Okay?
I don't disagree.
And this is the thing, and goals do win you games, and winning games wins you Premier Leagues, right? So you've got to have a look out there and be more effective, because if we can't find a player out there who can strengthen up front and at the back, then our scouting network is either ineffective, or a negotiating team are ineffective, or we're being so close-minded, we're switching ourselves off to everything.
Very true. I'm going to start to wrap this up then, boys, because we were only supposed to do maximum of half an hour, and we've gone on for a little bit longer than that. But I will finish by asking you the question, as I do every other transfer deadline day. Who do you think's going to come in, or who would you like to see come in? Jace?
I don't think anybody's going to come in, and it really saddens me. I feel really disillusioned at the moment. I'd like anybody. I'd like somebody to compete with Coquelin and somebody up front. If it's a Cavani, if it's a Higuain, I don't care. I don't give a monkeys. We get too many people sneering at players when actually Arsene Wenger normally improves a player. But at the moment, who knows?
Okay. Thank you very much. Mark?
I don't see anyone else coming in. I think it's a bad decision. I think Arsene Wenger has to take responsibility for that. I'm not going to sit here and name names, because Arsenal should have been doing that business, so it's too late now to even bother about it. Pissed off.
Yeah. Same old story, innit? Same old story.
It is the same old story, and I mean, it was really interesting listening to the guys going at each other there. I mean, some good points, but you say the goal scorers don't win you titles. Well, Chelsea bought an assister and a striker, and they won the league.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the way you've got to look at it. Tom?
I don't think you'll see anyone coming unless other dominoes fall, but it's unlikely.
Spain's closed. No dominoes going to fall now, boys.
No, but we can still sign players from those countries. Yeah. They just can't buy any. Kris?
If we were going to go for a striker, and whatever anyone thinks of this, I'd like to see us gamble on the boy at Bournemouth, Wilson. Personally, I think he'd get him cheap, and I think he could probably be made into something that would be quite a very decent acquisition. As far as midfield goes, I wouldn't mind Motta from PSG for a season. Back up, decent experience. He's a bit of a bastard. I'd be fine with that. I'd love Krachowiak from Sevilla, but I can't see that happening. So I'd take Motta.
Fair enough. So that's us done then for the moment. We'll be back at 1 p.m. where we've got William Baker, Pally, Jonas, and Sim with us. So we'll be back in 20 minutes. Go make yourself a cup of coffee, do a little bit of housework, go and watch some bloody Sky Sports News. So that was a Bergkamp Wonderland Transfer Deadline Day Special Part 1. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back in 20 minutes. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland Deadline Day Special Part 2. I'm Gimli, and today I am joined by, first up, it is at 7-inch King, who is Jonas from Denmark. Hello, Jonas.
Hello, Gimli. How are you?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you with us. But I shall move on because we've got a lot to get through and not a lot of time to do it in. Next up, we have William Barker. Hello, Will.
Oh, you're all right, mate.
Yes, I'm not too bad at all, thank you. And finally, we have Sim, who is at Simply Enigmatic. Hello, Sim.
Hello, Gimli. How are you?
I am wonderful. And finally, we have Kris, who's going to be with us all day, taking over the fat man's role to start with. So just a quick nod from yourself, Kris.
A quick nod.
Lovely. So we'll kick this off then, very similar to the way we left it. Nothing new has broken. I've seen reports of Sky Sports News that say it doesn't look like Arsenal are in for anybody as it stands, and with just 4 hours and 45 minutes to go, it's all doom and gloom. Will, we'll start with you. Your thoughts on Arsenal so far in this window? Is Petr Cech the only signing for the window good enough?
Well, I don't think so. But I did see on Twitter a little bit earlier that Arsenal are the only club in the top 5 leagues to not sign an outfield player. Now, if we want to challenge for the title, I don't think that's good enough. And considering there is only, 4 or 5 hours left, I don't see us bringing anyone in now. But Wenger supposedly thinks we've got good unity, and if he thinks that will win us the league, I'm unsure.
It's a very good question you posed there. A lot has been said about squad harmony and the fact that this bunch of players is possibly the most united group of players that we've had under Arsene Wenger's time at Arsenal. Now, Jonas, does that win titles for you, or to stay competitive, do you have to keep refreshing the squad and buying players?
I think that you have to go into the market and look, at least try to stabilize your squad as you look at the competing teams around us, as the Manchester Cities, the Chelseas, and the Uniteds are all going out and does some business, and you need to keep up with those kind of because unless you keep buying a little bit, then I think that you become static, and I'm afraid that we won't be compatible for this season. And I was very optimistic before the season started. I thought that we actually could go and challenge for the league, and that hope is fading by the minutes as the window comes to a close.
It's a very good point. But
well, yeah.
Sorry, no, I was going to go over to Sim and ask the question. Sim, do you think as a football club this window becomes stagnant? I mean, I had an argument with someone on Twitter yesterday. I won't name names.
You want to.
No. I said that to not sign anyone else other than Petr Cech in this window was 1, unexcusable. It was 2, incompetent. 3, naive. And 4, you've got to look at all the clubs around us. We finished 3rd in the league last year. And you've got every club around us that finished around us have gone out and spent considerable sums of money. You've got City with Sterling and De Bruyne. You've got Chelsea who signed Pedro to add to their already strong unit. and Begovic as well to replace pretty much what they lost in Czech. I don't know if you can put Liverpool in that equation, but they've gone out and signed players the likes of Firmino, who many have touted to be a good player. We're missing a trick, aren't we? We've got to be to watch other clubs go out and strengthen in the ways that we have, and Arsenal only signing a goalkeeper. It doesn't put us in a good stead, does it?
I kind of disagree with most of that.
Okay.
So just because if you looked at why Arsenal fans right now are irritated, it's less because of the signings and it's more because of how we're playing. And if you saw our team at the end of last season and what we thought it would be this season, what's really failed in Arsenal at the moment is the way we're playing. Like, we're having lots of shots on target, we're not scoring enough goals, we're not playing attractive football. If we were winning all of our games and people say, no, we're doing fine, maybe add a bit of support to Colin. But besides that, our team has got goals in it. And we scored maybe 2 goals less than the eventual league winners last year, and we didn't have Walcott in the squad. So we've got goals in our team. We had a reasonable defence. We strengthened there. The only place that we really needed was a goalkeeper, and we bought frickin' Petr Cech. So I don't buy the argument that you need to keep buying players for no reason. Look how much United have spent on practically nobody. Like, no one's heard of this kid before. He's 19 years old, and they've spent, what, 50 million euros?
Yeah, no, 80 million euros.
Look at the prices. It makes no sense. It makes far more sense waiting for the Alexis. They spent the same money on this kid as we spent on Alexis, and you say that we failed at transfers.
Can I just counter that? Sorry. You said that if we wasn't losing and if we were winning, people wouldn't want signings as much. But isn't this the same cycle that we have like every year? Because last season, if you remember, we started off with a lucky win against Palace. I was there, and it was like the 90th minute or extra time, Ramsey scored. And after that, we had quite a few draws. So I don't think that you can say that it's not for a lack of trying. I do think we are trying to make signings. Whether we'll get them, I really think not. But also, I think it is the same cycle every year. We start off badly after a good end to the season before, and then slowly over the season we pick up again, and I think that's where we're going wrong.
I don't think it is as cyclic as that, and I'd say that last year we did lose the league in, say, the first 6 games, but then there were also injury problems to contend with, and we didn't have a Colin, right? So we have added to that squad as a core element, and really the main issue that Arsenal have had over the years is losing our best players. Right? It's only since signing Ozil and Alexis that we've even been in a position where we haven't needed to buy replacements to players. We're not stumbling after losing a Nasri and a Fabregas to bring in Arteta. So we're not in that situation anymore. And it's, when people say, oh, clubs don't have to sell, oh no, just raise the price to 100 million and they'll definitely sell to you. If right now, last day, someone offered you 100 million for Alexis, you weren't going to sell him. So I don't buy the argument that you can just buy any player. All you can get right now is overpriced youngsters, and even then there's no guarantee that they're going to be successful. It makes much more sense to say, we've got £70 million, we're not spending it, but it's not like it's going anywhere just sitting in the bank. And then when someone becomes available that is truly world-class and we have the ability to strengthen our squad, it makes more sense to buy that player.
But we've had a whole summer, and apparently no one's become available. So who's to say that player does become available? So
again, we don't really know. But what signings have been made that you've been genuinely jealous of?
Vidal to start with.
Yeah, but if Vidal was going to go to, was he at Barcelona now?
No, Bayern.
All right, so he's gone to Bayern. So there you're contending with Bayern Munich. So even then it's going to be difficult persuading a player to come.
I think Draxler could have done a job for us as well, if we're talking about players that have moved. Arda Turan could have done a job for us, no, undoubtedly. I think plenty of players have moved that could have done a job for us.
Yeah, but what clubs
I think the argument to say that there wasn't anyone available that could have strengthened Arsenal Football Club is absolute bollocks, and the talk
I didn't say that.
It's completely deluded.
I didn't say that. I said that nobody has moved really. So there have been people that have moved that we could have realistically bought, name those players, because all of the players that we're actually in contention with are the likes of Benzema, maybe Cavani, and those types of players.
See, this is the other thing.
Go on.
People assume that a player has to be available to move. At the end of the day, a player doesn't have to be on the transfer list to move.
No,
you
they
test
don't.
the water, you place bids.
Okay, so do you know that didn't happen? So that's what I really dislike, because I don't know what's happening as far as transfers are concerned, neither do you. So it's really ridiculous to sit there and say, oh, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. Clubs talk to each other all of the time, having a feel like, okay, is this player likely to move? They didn't get Ozil and Alexis because like they weren't talking to people. That's ridiculous to say. So obviously they're going to be trying to...
The only signing we've made this summer was handed to us on a plate by Chelsea. It's not good enough.
That's true.
Not good. As a fan, you can't expect fans to pay.
So you think Chelsea really wanted to sign?
No. All I'm saying is, you can't expect the fans to pay the ticket prices that they pay and not give them something back in return with players. To me, you've got to look at the facts. We're sat here with every club in the league has signed at least 3 more players than we have. Have they signed them for the sake of it?
Over 5. We're the only club to not have signed 5 players or more.
Yeah, but signing 5 players can completely disrupt the squad.
Yeah, I understand
that.
I wish I had your positivity, but you say, like, who could we have signed that's gone to another club that could improve our squad?
That would have realistically...
I disagree with this, but Schneiderlin, he's gone to Man United. You say they're buying unproven youngsters, but they bought him as well. You can't say that he wouldn't improve our squad or at least prove backup for Coquelin. And I also would like to add, I'd love to have your positivity, because the way I feel right now, I don't agree.
Okay, so I'll put it this way. As far as like Schneiderlin is concerned, I don't know what happened with that situation, but I would believe in my head, at least to some extent, that Arsene looked at him and decided he didn't want him. Because if he wanted to buy that kind of player, then realistically we could have gone toe-to-toe with United.
That's not good enough if he didn't want to.
Yeah, but then, okay, so if you're going to decide to say that, okay, the decisions that Wenger is making you disagree with, then maybe it's better for you to think that we need a different manager at the club, which is a completely different argument.
Jonas, what do you think? You've been quiet, mate.
Yeah, well, I have to come back to what you talked about last season. We had this squad that we pretty much have now, and I think the problem with this transfer window is that we haven't gone in and maybe helped out with some of our aging players like the Artetas and the Flaminies, and if something, knock on wood, gonna happen to Coquelin, then we are in a bit of trouble where I see that if we have to go 4 or 5 games without him and have to put Arteta back in the squad, and I would have liked that a player at least come in and try to challenge for that, and then Schneiderlin would have been a good signing for us, and I do believe that we had the chance, and from all I've heard from the media, and we was actually his first choice if we put up the money that Southampton actually wanted. So I think that we slept a little bit on that one, and I'm afraid that we could go and pay a few silly games over the course of the season if we don't have a backup. And the rest of the squad is actually pretty good, and I do believe that we actually can get the goals that another top striker might have gone in. We of course have a lot of attacking players that can give us the goals, but I do think that a backup for the holding midfield player would have been a nice addition during the summer, and I do believe that we could go out and challenge for the whole for everybody in Europe, because now we are a cash strong team. So I hope that something will come up in the last couple of hours, but I also believe that it's a little naive for Arsenal if we don't go out and just try to protect the players that we have.
Yeah, Gimli, excuse me, I'll hand it back to you, but I will just say one thing that I totally agree with in the chat box, which, by the way, if people don't know, there's a chat box on the side. Steve Clark's just made the point, we wanted Benzema, Madrid didn't want to sell. And sometimes, whether anyone wants to disagree with that or agree with it, it's a fact. It's a pure, bona fide fact. If a club does not want to sell a player, it doesn't matter if you've got 60 billion. If a club doesn't want to sell, they ain't going to sell. And that's, whatever you think of that. That's the truth.
Oh, sorry. I want to say to that. Why? I know we were interested and Madrid wanted to sell, but if you think, why would Benzema want to come to us? Why would he want to leave Real Madrid to come to us?
He wouldn't.
Exactly.
No, go on.
Okay. Well, the problem with the Benzema thing was that they got a new manager, and people start to speculate if Benzema actually did have a future at Real Madrid, and that's why all the speculation about us going for him was coming up in the media, and that was why I do believe that that Benzema deal actually was being sought after. And
that was the opportunity, wasn't it? Yeah. The whole Ronaldo move into the centre. So that was where
exactly,
the opportunity came from.
Exactly,
Yeah, from looking at that perspective, I can understand. But on the whole, like, it's kind of you would question why he would want to leave. But,
well, that's exactly, but that's because that it actually looked like that they want to keep him. If he was put on the side, like if Benitez actually took him aside and said, "Look, you're not our first choice now," and then there was a opportunity for us to go in there and put up whatever kind of cash that they needed and then take him to. And I do believe that he actually would have preferred to go to Arsenal, where he could get regular playing time instead of playing in Real Madrid, where he'd probably be sitting in a lot of the stands.
And that's the same, and that's exactly the same with Cavani. You know, there's a reason people sell him, because they know that Zlatan will give him one more year, if that, and then Cavani will be their number one striker. So why on earth would he move? But Gim, do you want to take the reins back?
Yeah. I was just sat by listening. We should think about starting to wrap this up then, because we were overrun on the last one, which means we run late on this one. But no, it remains to be seen what's going to happen today. I'm sure that there's quite a few aggravated Arsenal fans out there. Personally, Sim, I don't think that there's many people out there that are as level-headed as you. I can see where you're coming from, and you bring a very, very good debate. But I think that there's also the thing with Arsenal Football Club and the fans, that if nobody's bought in or it doesn't look like they're trying, which, you know, like you said, we don't know either way what's gone on behind the scenes, but all you can judge them on is the players that have come in. And at the moment, many of them will say, Petr Cech, brilliant signing, but not enough. So we'll end it there. But before we do go, I will ask you the same question I ask every podcast special, which is, do you think we will sign anyone? And if so, who? And I will start off with you, Sim.
I don't think we will sign anyone unless someone comes up. But just one quick thing to add. One thing that I think Arsenal should do, and it comes to ticket prices, which I think are ridiculous anyway. One thing that might help is just it would be a nice show as well, for them to admit, okay, we haven't really signed anyone because we didn't feel there was anyone worth signing, but we're going to lower ticket prices down the 3% that they raised them. I think it would be a nice thing to do, especially for home support.
I completely agree. I completely agree with you, because that's part of my point.
I completely agree. Like, it's a completely separate issue. If it's one thing for them trying to sign, at least the caliber of player we're linked with isn't Salomon Kalou. Okay, so that's one thing to at least be slightly happy about. So at least the media will be suggesting that we're in for a better class of player. But if they don't sign anyone, then they should kind of try and accept that it's not, say, right to do it to fans, like charge them lots of money, say, oh, we need it for signings, and then, don't do anything.
No, I completely agree. Will, we'll move on to you.
Personally, I think when you look in the past, all of our deadline day signings, last year as well, back, and then we had Ozil. When we got them, there was quite a few reports starting early in the day, and with it closing so early today, and very limited reports throughout the transfer window of Arsenal signing anyone, I don't think we'll be getting anyone. I think it'll just be as it is.
Yeah.
And when questioned, Wenger will just say, well, the players we wanted weren't available, and that's all we'll get from it, personally.
Yeah, very true. And finally, Jonas.
Well, I agree with Will and Sim that unfortunately it doesn't look like we're gonna pick something up, but I do have a little bit of information on my side of the pond. Is our version of Sky Sports News. Last night, 3 of the pundits were all agreeing that Arsenal was going to do an Özil and pick something out of the hat. Not that actually means anything, but they were all talking about strikers. They are pretty much as full of shit as anybody in the media outlet. But then you can have it that it's not only in the UK that's the pundits are trying to pick up a little bit of more viewers or clicks on their website. It's pretty much the same over here.
Yeah, no, I agree. So all that's left then is to thank you boys for joining me. I can reveal at 3 o'clock we've got Adam Ullman, Ellis Mehl. Who else, Kris? Pally as well.
Explore planning. Pally's on at 3 now. We've switched him up. So at 2 o'clock we've got.
I'm an hour ahead of myself.
Yeah, I was going to say you've gone way ahead. At 2 o'clock we have your good self. We have Danny or myself or both. Not sure what's happening there. The bearded one, John. The Australian one, Jake. The South African one, Tim. And the American one, Ryan.
Okay. Fantastic. So we will be back in roughly about 25 minutes. It's been a pleasure. I hope you'll join us then. So that was a Bergkamp Wonderland Transfer Deadline Day Special Part 2. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in 25. Bye-bye. Hello, and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland Deadline Day Podcast Special Part 3. I'm Gimli, and today I am joined by, first up, it's Tim Hargreaves. Hello, Tim.
Good afternoon, Gimli. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Quite well, thanks. Despite the weather in Durban doing its best, i.e. worst, yeah, things are good. Good.
Nice to hear. I'll move it along then, and I will move on to our next guest, who is Ryan Hennick. He is from Arsenal in My Blood podcast. Hello, Ryan.
Hello, boys. Good day to you all.
And how the devil are you?
Pretty bloody tired. Been up since 3:30 a.m. Phoenix, Arizona time. But I'm feeling blessed because I woke up just in enough time to see Julian Lescott sign for Aston Villa. So I can't really complain, can I?
No. Who can complain? And also, we have John Welsh as well.
Hello, Jim.
How are you doing?
Dreadful, because I've been awake for about 20 minutes. This is awful. What on earth am I awake for on this shitty day?
Well, it is. I mean, it's a pleasure to have you join us, though. I mean,
I sound so keen.
No, that's got to be said. I mean, you know, plenty of people would have killed to be on here. Terrible. And of course, the Fat Man is here. Hello, Fat Man.
Hello, people.
We've got a new nickname for you, haven't we?
Oh,
Kris
nice.
has coined you a new nickname. What is it? Was it Fat Man Poop?
That's the one.
Actually, I'm holding in a winner right now.
Oh, lovely stuff. Winner, chicken dinner.
How to lose listeners.
Yes. And of course, the ever-present Kris is with us as well. Hello, Kris.
Hello. I'm turning into Danny, the king of tech, and I don't like it.
No. Come back from the dark side. Don't be a cunt. Right then, where do we kick this off? Probably the inability or the lack of signings. Danny, let's have your thoughts on this. You're up first. The lack of signings, is it naive, as Gary Neville said?
Yes, it's absolutely ridiculous because we are one injury from 2 players away from our team falling apart. Özil gets injured. No, that's my brain's already ahead of me. Sanchez gets injured, Özil's going to have to play on the left, and that's him ruined. And if Mad Frankie in midfield carries on picking up 12 bookings a game, we're going to be without him, and then we are fucked. And so it's just ridiculous that if we go the entire season with no injuries, everyone will go, oh, Wenger, you absolute genius, you've done all of this lot, didn't even have to buy any more than 1 player and 5 youth players. But it's not going to happen, is it? We're going to get an injury. Mad Frankie's going to get at least 1 sending off, maybe about 17 yellow cards. And then we're going to have to start shuffling people around. It's absolutely ridiculous. But he knows best, I suppose, so I'll go with what the manager says.
Fair enough. John, we'll move on to you next. You haven't been awake very long, but what were your expectations for the final day? Did you go into today thinking that, maybe he would pull something out of that magic hat of his, or did you just think that nothing was going to happen?
I thought one was coming in, because heard a few rumours and whatever last night, and talks were supposedly ongoing and stuff like that. So I thought there might be one. Whether there's still time to do one, I've got no idea, because I don't know if they are talking to anyone. Just to pile on the misery, I've just seen our very own Simon from the bloggers group has just put a fun fact up on Twitter. Arsenal are the only team in Europe's top 5 leagues not to sign an outfield player. That's fucking incredible.
I
mean, when you put it like that, that's really, really sad and depressing. I don't like to get down on the
Even the Pirates brought in 8 players this off-season, Kim.
I know. Well, I don't know what's wrong with the world. We'll get the opinion of our other guests, and we'll kick on with you, Tim. Are you angry that Arsenal haven't signed anyone? Is it par for the course? I mean, we had Sim on the last show, and he was cool as a cucumber. It didn't seem to faze him that we hadn't signed anybody. He said, you look at the form of the squad at the end of last season, now nothing's changed, but a world-class goalkeeper has come in. So did we actually need to sign anyone at all?
I would actually agree with what Danny was saying just now. I think we are a little bit short in a couple of our key positions. As you said, we are one injury or suspension away from Colin going out. Then we've got Arteta. And do we really want to play Mikel Arteta in games versus Chelsea or Manchester United? Probably not. As for what Danny was saying about the left side, I think we also need a left-sided player. I'll agree with the erstwhile Dom, who said that as well. I believe on a couple of podcasts now, he said we need a proper wide left player. And I think I'll also add to that and say we also need another centre-back. As we all saw in the first match of the season, or was it the second match? First match. Chambers is just not, maybe it was the second game. Chambers is just not ready for a starting role yet at centre-back. He's just not quite there yet. And if we get an injury or suspension to Kashani and Mertesacker, we're in real trouble. I think Wenger has only made one really poor decision so far in the transfer window, and that is that he let Isaac Hayden disappear off to Hull on loan. Now, he would have been an ideal deputy for Coquelin, and he could also fill in at centre-back. So I thought that particular loan move was a little bit strange. So yeah, we should have really looked at one wide forward, one defensive midfielder, and one centre back. That's for me. I think just check on its own, I don't think was enough. However, I'm not completely absent. It's just something that we've learned to expect over the years, isn't it? Wenger is not one to go and buy 6 or 7 players in one window. As you said, he's bought in what is it, 5 or 6 youngsters and Peter Cech. We'd be really lucky if he bought in the 4 that we actually needed in one window. But us that he wants are not available. I was actually reading something yesterday about, there was a rumor about Yarmolenko from Dynamo Kiev. I think he would actually be pretty decent for us, and the money quoted was around £14 million, which is not really a huge fee. I'm pretty sure we pay more than that for Danny Welbeck. So for an experienced forward like Yarmolenko, that would be a decent fee, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Ryan, you've sat there and you've listened to what everybody on here has said. I mean, what are your thoughts on Arsenal in the transfer window at this time?
I'm not upset that we haven't brought anyone in except Petr Cech. I mean, I would love us to get caliber player like a Benzema, Lewandowski, even Cavani possibly. But listen, if those players aren't available, the selling clubs aren't willing to sell those high caliber players, then I think we have to accept that. I think we have a good squad. I don't think we're really left short in too many positions. I take and I appreciate the points to want to bring in a quote unquote defensive midfielder. But But I do think we'll be okay without bringing one in. If Arteta has to start 8 to 10 matches, play 25 matches total, and come in the 70th minute to shore up games, I think we'll be okay. Of course, if Colin gets a long-term injury and we don't buy somebody, we're going to be in trouble. But that's kind of the risk you take. You don't want an inflated squad. And so, I think we have a good enough squad to challenge. We need to play better. We need to adjust some of our tactics. We need some of our players that we do have currently in the squad to step up and start performing. But at the same time, we can't. There's not a whole lot we can do as supporters to influence transfers. So we have to accept the reality of what we are, and we're not, like Tim said, we're not going to bring in 8 players. We're just not going to do that. So. At the same time, we brought in Welbeck last minute. We brought in Ozil last minute the year before. So something could be done. I think if something is done, it'll probably be a loan signing, not a marquee name, unfortunately. But we got a few more hours left, so time will tell.
Yeah, very true. Danny, I'll move on to you. Now, a lot of people have said that we've been toothless in front of goal this season. We are getting the chances, but we're not converting them. I mean, just how important would it have been to have had a striker, and what effect would have had on the team in where we finish in the league?
Well, you look at the shots we've had per game. This is just completely on goal, off goal, and saved. West Ham 22 shots, Palace 20 shots, Liverpool 19 shots, Newcastle 22. So that means that the entire midfield are doing their job of giving the ball to the strikers. The defence are doing their job because we've had 2 clean sheets in a row. So it comes down to the fact we're not winning games because the strikers aren't doing their job. Giroud has got 1 Premier League goal in, I think it's either 9, 10 or 11 games now. I can't remember because it just gets worse every time. And that was the game against Palace, the goal he scored against Palace. And so we're averaging 20 shots at goal per game. Now, that is more than any other Premier League team, and I'd say that's more than any other top league team in the whole of Europe averaging that many. And just to have that many opportunities and not have anybody putting them in the back of the net is an absolute disgrace. Theo's just as responsible. He that went against Liverpool, or was it, where he ran up to Newcastle and he just tipped it slightly over. That's unacceptable. You can't have. That's the problem with the Giroud has always been. Every now and then he'll go and have this magnificent run of 9 goals in 7 games, but then to get those 9 goals, he needs three chances at goal per one. But you look at the likes of Henry or Aguero or Ian Wright, and I know it's going on about the old players and world class players, but they will probably score 2 out of every 3 chances. At the moment, we're scoring maybe 1 out of every 4 or 5. Well, 22 a game, we're getting 1 of those chances. Some of them you may like the actual ones that have been on target: 9 against Newcastle, 5 against Liverpool, 7 against Palace, and 6 against West Ham. Now that's the times that they're on target. So if we had a world-class striker up there, or someone who had a little bit of confidence, or we're playing to his abilities. I mean, how often do we put the ball high up across the air and cross it in for Giroud, who's 6'12" or whatever he is, 6'4"?
Worked against Palace though, didn't it? When Bayern and Ozil were crossing in the ball towards Giroud.
Yeah, and then they still kept doing it once Theo didn't. Who did he say against Palace?
Yes.
Theo didn't play against Palace, did he? He was on the bench the whole time.
Yeah.
But then they were still doing that against. I think when Theo come on against Liverpool and Giroud went off, and he was still doing it. I mean, all the games as usual. We're only 4 games into the season, and I'm forgetting what happened in what games. I've seen so many games, I just lose the will to live. But my point is, if we had a world-class striker, they would have a better conversion rate of 1 goal every 5 or 6 attempts.
Yeah. I mean, John, I'll move over to you, and you look at stats and statistics, and Danny, that's more your criteria. But you look, every other club has signed 5 players to our 1. We're the only one, like you said, in the whole of Europe's top 5 leagues to have not signed an outfield player. Are Arsenal at risk of becoming a joke just because they do seem so incredibly, I don't know what the word is, just incompetent in transfer windows?
It's a bit embarrassing. I don't think I'd use the word joke. I'd save that for Man United and Real Madrid and the De Gea debacle. That's fucking hilarious. But yeah, it's certainly embarrassing that we haven't gone out and signed anyone. I think people were talking about earlier that we were maybe looking at too high quality a player, sort of unrealistic targets, because we don't know whether there was any talk with people like Benzema or Royce and players like that who are perhaps not likely to come to us because they're more likely to stay at Real Madrid or go to clubs like Barcelona and Bayern Munich. So maybe we do have to set our sights a little bit lower than that. There's still time today to do something, but I think if anyone comes in today at all, it's not going to be the sort of name or calibre of player that people probably wanted. I think people were wanting people like players like Cavani, players of allegedly that quality, although I don't think he's actually that good. But it's a disappointment. I honestly, I'm not trying to make excuses for the club, but I don't see what there is out there to buy. There's so little players. I know people get fed up with comparing it with other clubs, but you look at Man United, they're going to spend all that money on Martial. I mean, I don't even think were they even looking at him before? They've just gone in there for desperation. I think what Danny says is right. We do need. I'm not necessarily saying we need a better striker than Giroud. We need a different option to him. Because you see all these other times, the whole time he's been at the club, when he's had these dips in form, he's been taken out of the team. Someone else has come in for him, play instead of him. And then he's had that kick up the arse that he needed and come back into the team and started playing well again. He's a bit of a streaky player. So we just need that different option. I don't think that different option is Walcott. Whether it's Welbeck or not, the jury's still out on that. I'm not convinced myself. So we do just need someone else. I think a lot of our issues are more down to tactics than personnel.
And I mean, we've got some people in the chat box that have put suggestions forward. Brendan O'Donoghue has put Saido Berahino. Stidarth has put Gomes. Mick for Life has put Aguero. I think he's taking the piss there. And someone's reminded us that we do still have Joel Campbell. So, Tim, what do you make of any of those options? Do you think any of those would have been a good fit at Arsenal, or would you be happy to go with Joel Campbell and maybe try him?
What I'd be happy with is if we actually used Giroud correctly. What I noticed against Liverpool was Giroud was going up against Lovren and Skrtel, and he was winning the majority of his aerial challenges. The problem was the midfielders were drifting too bloody far away from him, so he was winning the knockdown and there was no one there to pick it up. Now I think that's really something that Wenger and Steve Bold need to drill into the guys, is to not drift far from Giroud, because he's going to go up, he's going to win the knockdown, and there's got to be someone there to pick it up. So Giroud, for every K, he does miss the occasional sitter, but we should be scoring more because the other players should be playing closer to him, as opposed to having, say, Ozil and Ramsey who are likely to go forward. You need to actually give a specific team order to one midfielder to actually stay somewhere within about 5 to 10 yards of Giroud all match to pick up that knockdown ball that he's going to win. Because let's face it, Giroud is good in the air. He does win the majority of his aerial challenges against centre-backs. That is something that he is very good at. In terms of the three options you mentioned, I would love to see Sergio Aguero at Arsenal, but let's face it, that's just not happening. Unless something really spectacular happens on the world stage and Man City decide to go after the shiny new thing, and then Aguero becomes surplus to requirements. But as long as Pellegrini's there as manager, I don't see that happening. As for Bafétimbi Gomis, I don't see him joining us either. I would love to see him with Arsenal because I think he's actually at least the same level as Giroud, if not possibly a slight upgrade on Giroud, and that he's got, in my opinion, a better first touch and a very quick turn, which Giroud doesn't always have. He's also about the same height as Giroud, isn't he? There's about half an inch difference in height between them, so we could play a similar kind of game with Gomis and Giroud. But that's exactly why Wenger won't sign him. He's too similar to Giroud. He's got too many similar attributes to Giroud already. As for the third option, which was the third name that was mentioned?
It was basically just saying that Joel Campbell, can we use Joel Campbell?
Campbell, that was it. Campbell, yes, but I don't think in that as a number 9. I think he would be more better suited in one of the wider positions, as I just don't think he's got the physical stature to be a number 9 for us. He's just too short. We've seen that issue crop up with Theo as well in the last match, where it was just nothing going on with him the whole match. He was invisible. I think he had, 14 touches in like 60-odd minutes, which is just absolutely pathetic, really. That's 4 minutes, which is just crap, really. I think, unfortunately, Campbell would, in that he's also a fairly short player. Maybe he's slightly physically more muscular and slightly better built than Walcott to play number 9, but I still feel he's too short. We need to have a guy who's at least 6'2", playing through the middle with the current formation and tactics as they are. And like I said, I'd like to see the midfielders coming into action more and playing their game closer to Giroud.
I think. Sorry to cut you off there, Tim, but one of the people that we have overlooked, and I think a possible place in this window where they failed is, if they couldn't sign anyone, if they couldn't bring in a striker, why not give Aaqib a go? From what I saw in pre-season, he looks quite a tasty little player. Is it Wolves, the club that he's at the moment? He scored
Hull City with Isaac Hayden.
Yes.
At Hull.
But he scored a couple of goals for them, and I'm thinking, young, pacey.
Scored in his debut.
He's hungry. You know, like, the excuse is that there's no one out there to buy. So why do you loan off someone that could have done a job for us? I think that to me is inexcusable. John,
that's why I said that the loan of Isaac Hayden was daft, because there's no one else really who can fulfill that position. He was the only player last season for us who came out with any credit versus Southampton in the League Cup. If you go back and watch, Hayden was by far our best player in that match, and he was playing at centre back. As far as I know, he can play at centre back and defensive midfield, so that would have given us cover at centre back. Arguably as good as Chambers as a centre back. Because remember now, Chambers is a right back who's being adapted to play centre back, whereas Isaac Hayden has played centre back and defensive midfield for his whole career through our youth teams, etc. So I would say he's probably more adept at playing centre back at the moment than Chambers, and that was another reason I thought it was strange to loan him.
Guys, we're talking about players here. You talk about Aaqib. He right now, his career, he needs game time. He's not going to get consistent minutes at Arsenal, so he needs to go out on loan to develop, because he's not ready. He's clearly not ready yet. He's a good talent, and he might be, but it's more beneficial him to be playing at a Hull City than to be getting 3 or 4 matches at Arsenal. And in terms of Isaac Hayden, I mean, let's be honest, Arteta and Flamini are far better options than Isaac Hayden in the middle of the park. I mean, again, Hayden could be that player, but he's not. He certainly isn't there yet. And same really goes in terms of these other options that are being thrown about: Berahino, Charlie Austin, Wanyama. I mean, these guys are not good enough to get into. In my opinion, Arsenal is definitely not Arsenal's starting 11, and I would even argue Arsenal's 18. So why are we going to spend 25 million on Berahino, who's not a better option in my opinion than Giroud? And don't forget Danny Welbeck, guys. I mean, I don't know when Welbeck's going to be fit, but we just bought him for 16 million last season, and I think he's got a lot to give to the club. He's not everyone's favorite. He's not that world-class striker, but he's certainly a better option than some of the names around the league that are being thrown about. So I think we've got to have some perspective and realize that just because you can spend money and you can buy players, it doesn't necessarily improve your team. And I think that's the case with a lot of these names being thrown about.
Very true. We shall start to wrap this up then. And as always, we ask the question, do you think we'll sign anybody and who? Tim, I'll go straight back to you.
I think we will sign absolutely bloody no one. Apparently there's a report of Wenger being in Paris, and the Daily Telegraph kind of did a little piss take there and said, is he there to A, commentate on a France match, B, get some proper nosh, or C, to look at a PSG player? Hint, the answer's A or B. So they did a little bit of a piss take there, the fellow at the Telegraph. I don't think we're going to get anybody in before the deadline. I believe deadline closes in about 3.5 hours. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Not going to get anyone. Not if Wenger's already in Paris at that point. No one.
No. Okay, John?
Yeah, go on, I'll be crazy and say we're getting one in. Who are we going to get? Kevin Doyle.
Yeah.
I thought he signed for the Pirates.
No, we
He wasn't good enough for the
He wasn't good
Pirates.
enough.
There we go.
He didn't have the right mobility. But could Arsenal sign Amy Lewis? Is that possible? She's lovely.
Is that like?
Sorry, carry on.
Is that Mr. Goonerholic?
No, and it's not Pink Eye either. It's the one who's reporting at Southampton today for Sky Sports News. She's lovely. She can clean my house any day.
Very
That's turned
tasty.
into an episode of Keys and Grey.
Get off the
Only
patch,
banter.
bitch! Get off the patch!
There's that voice. Right, this is going downhill.
Sorry.
Ryan,
My fault. Apologies.
do you think we're going to sign anyone, Ryan?
No, I don't think we will. I think depending on Welbeck's time frame and when he comes back. I mean, that's kind of bewildering to me. His injury's been out for going on 5 months with a bone bruise. I think there's something a lot more sinister there that we're not hearing about. But if we do bring in a striker, I think it'd be somebody on loan. Kind of a last minute Kallstrom type signing, which won't please a lot of people, but that's I think the best we can hope for at this point.
Yeah. And Danny?
No one.
Fucking no one?
Fucking no one.
Lovely stuff. That just about wraps it up then. Thank you guys for joining me. We are going to be back at, let me just have a look, at 3 o'clock, and we've got Drew, Adam Ullman, Ellis Mehl, and we've got Big Red Gooner as well, who is, what's his at?
Alan. Oh,
Alan.
He's at Big Olal, isn't it?
Big Olal, big underscore Olal. So we will be back in about 25 minutes' time. So we look forward to seeing you then. So that was a Bergkamp Wonderland Deadline Day Transfer Special Part 3. Thank you. Part 2. Part 2.
That was 3.
It was 3. Oh, I'm just fucking off the clock. Thank you so much for listening. And keep it Arsenal. Good night. Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland, an Arsenal podcast. I'm Gimli, and today I am joined by, first up, I'm going to introduce to you Kris and Danny.
Hello there!
Look, I don't know.
Why are we even doing this? Right, I'll
Are you
get
going
back
to
to
tell people that we do know there's going to be fuck all transfers today? We just used it as a chance to get some of the listeners on and have a giggle.
Yes.
Notice you
Yes.
say listeners and not fans because they're not pretentious like that.
No. Well,
I am.
They are listeners. So
They're Chris's fans.
I will introduce them as they come. First up, it's my pleasure to introduce Ellis. Hello, Ellis.
Hello there. Thank you for having me on.
It's an absolute pleasure. Like Danny said, it's a great chance to have some new people on and to talk Arsenal with people that we don't necessarily know, but we know listen to our shows. So,
Or indeed like
yes.
like you and Kris.
Like me, yeah.
Do you know what? My dog is he's scratching himself crazy in the cage, and he's
I
making
know,
a lot.
that's just been on transfer news on Sky Sports. There's breaking, your dog's got an itch. That's the only fucking news on there.
Danny, you've got a fan in the chat box.
Oh, hello. He or she?
Ron Paul Swede.
Okay. Ron Paul.
I mean, GFP, big fan, yeah. You're the
Thank
only
you very
one
much.
on. But...
Or is he saying I'm a big fan as I'm fat? Here we go. It's for the fans now.
Is no one a fan of me?
I'll get
They're
back.
all on the podcast.
Yeah, that was just fuck all else to do.
Sorry,
Well,
we're
get on with it.
car
Yes.
crashing this. Sorry.
It's my pleasure to introduce to you now Drew from our bloggers. I know we're going to be doing a bloggers podcast in the international break, so you're going to be hearing more from him and our lovely bloggers. But hello, Drew.
Hey guys, how are you?
Not too bad at all, thank you, apart from the lack of sign-ins.
I'm sorry.
And finally, I'll introduce someone that supported this podcast since the very early days, even before we were a twinkle in the ABWI. It's my pleasure to introduce Adam Ullman. Hello, Adam.
Hello, everyone. Good to be on with you all.
It's lovely to have you on. So we'll move on then, and we will talk about the transfer window. Doesn't look like anything's going to happen. It's all deadly silent. I think we'd all be in agreement that if something big was going to happen, something would have trickled through by now. Drew, we'll start with you. What do you think about this window in general? Have Arsenal fucked up?
I think it really depends on the player you want to use as an example of fucking up. The Czech business was brilliant and probably one of the best moves of the entire window for anywhere in the Premier League. I think we may have missed out on a player like Schneiderlin, but would Schneiderlin want to come here and be happy with maybe starting over Coquelin sometimes? Probably not. He wanted to be guaranteed playing time, so he went to United. But when we look at if people wanted another good striker, maybe another holding player, the players have to be available, and the clubs want to have to sell them. They also want to have to leave the club they're at and come to Arsenal, and we also want to be okay with how much they're going to cost. So if we use Cavani as an example, because I know Jace just loves talking about Cavani, if Wenger feels like £50 million is a risk for a player of his age and one that's not guaranteed to come here and be able to fit into the mold, then that's a big gamble that we can't easily recoup financially, where other clubs have bottomless checkbooks where they don't have to worry about profit margins. I don't think we necessarily fucked up. I think we were in for players that we couldn't get deals done with for any number of reasons. I think that there maybe have been one or two players we passed on that we shouldn't have. But if the players just aren't really available, then there's really not much you can do. I'd rather us not spend money than spend over the top for someone like a Anthony Martial who may or may not even pan out and is vastly overpriced. So, I mean, I'm not necessarily happy, but I'm not also disappointed.
Okay, I think that's a very fair look on it, and quite a mature one as well at the same time. I mean, I'm guilty myself of throwing my toys out of the pram and losing my shit on Twitter on pretty much a daily basis over the last 5 days. But what I will say is a lot of people are saying that we're maybe one or two short to strengthen for the title. Adam, as a long-time listener, you're aware we do these transfer specials every year. I believe this is the third one now. And it seems to me that for all three of them, we're sat there saying we need a central defensive midfielder, we need a half-decent striker. We're 3 years on, and it doesn't appear like anything has changed. You can argue that players aren't available, but surely in that amount of time, something would have come up, wouldn't it?
You would think so, Gim. I'm not sure I buy into the argument that players aren't available. I think players aren't available for the price that we want to pay for them. And that's really what it comes down to. You and I have had many chats over whether or not we would like to see Arsenal act like a quote-unquote big club. And those big clubs spend money when they feel they need to. And what it comes down to, in my opinion, is that either A, Arsene doesn't feel like he needs to spend for those places at the price they are, which I think is probably the most likely answer. If you look at fans, supporters, yes, we feel like we need an alternative to Olivier. We need an alternative to Coquelin, who nobody expected to be what he has turned out to be, and we haven't done that. I agree with Drew that Czech was a brilliant piece of business that needed to be done, but I think that we needed more than that, and they just haven't gone out and done that.
I agree with a lot of what you said. We'll move over to Ellis. Ellis, you've sat there and you've listened to what the boys have had to say. Drew's very calm on the situation. Ellis thinks that it's not good enough. I mean, what's your take on the whole window?
I think Czech's a good signing, like Drew said. Perhaps if that was maybe today, people wouldn't be moaning, would they? But I think when you analyse a squad, I think we've got a decent squad that can compete. I'd probably agree with people when they say we do need an alternative or some backup to Coquelin. I don't think Arteta's necessarily got the legs if Coquelin gets injured or if he gets suspended, if he can have a good run of games and play the full 90 minutes. So I would have liked to have seen another CDM come in or someone of that ilk and maybe a striker. But I think Sim mentioned earlier on a previous podcast that Giroud just sort of he goes in and out of form and he needs someone to sort of come in, kick him up his bum, and he'll get back into form again. Perhaps Welbeck can do that. Perhaps Theo can do that. I think Theo needs a good run of games. I think Danny's mentioned on previous pods before that Giroud hasn't scored. I think 1 in 12 was it, and maybe Theo deserves more of a run in the squad. And maybe if he had a couple of games before the Newcastle game, he would have put some of those chances away.
Very true. Kris, Danny, you've been sat there. Kris, have your thoughts changed among this window? Are you disappointed we haven't signed anyone? Are you upset, frustrated?
I'm probably the rare breed in all this because I'm genuinely just sat here kind of chilled out about it. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit. I don't even think disappointed is the word because I'm not disappointed because I genuinely think that we've got a decent squad. I get why people are upset. I get why people are frustrated, but I also think that people need to just live in the real world. This is not FIFA. This is not Football Manager. You can't just go and blow your wad over a player just because you can or because it's not real. I mean, there's so many things. There's so many complex things that have to fall into place for a transfer to happen. There are people out there now that, okay, yes, they've got these people that are slagging the manager and the club off have got agendas. We all know that. There's some people that are sat on Twitter now going, oh, it's fucking disgraceful. The manager's done fuck all. We sat there doing fuck all. How do you know that? You don't know that. You're talking out your fucking arse. Behave yourself. I mean, it's absolute madness to think that Arsenal is doing nothing. I'm sure we've worked on things, and don't get me wrong, he isn't. I've said before, and I'll say again, he's not above criticism. He gets things wrong. He probably does dither a bit with signings. He probably does second guess himself. He probably talks himself out of certain signings, to be honest. But I genuinely think if a deal became available that he felt would strengthen the squad, he'd do it. He doesn't feel that the right players are there, and you can argue till you're blue in the face whether players that have gone elsewhere would have strengthened us. But they've gone now, so why worry about it? It's done. You get behind the side and you do what you can now. And don't get me wrong, if we don't win anything, I'll quite happily hold my hands up and say, yes, we should have strengthened. But this argument that we had on day pod 1 of this little collection, where people were saying that, oh, well, because we got money in the bank, we should spend it. To me, that's just moronic. I don't understand. Okay, money's in the bank. Well, so we have to spend it, do we? Well, no. I've got a kitchen full of food. Doesn't mean I'm gonna make 75 meals and eat all of it tonight, does it? We'll have lots of biscuits. But I just don't. I just don't understand. I don't understand that the people losing their minds over something they cannot control. And these are the same people that it's going to take a lot of luck, but these are the same people that will cheer this team home all the way if we lift a trophy this season. They're the same people that sat at Wembley when we won the FA Cup and lauded the team and said, oh, this is brilliant, we're right on the cusp of something, and giving it all the beans. They're the same people now that are crying out for us to buy 12 players.
I'm just from the other point of view. It's also the same people that are paying thousands of pounds for season tickets every season. Nobody forces them, though, Danny. Well, they do. They can't have it for free. It's the same people that have been flogged 3 brand new kits every season. I mean, that's just fucking ridiculous. It's the same people that are paying £50 a month for Sky, another £25 a month for BT. All these clubs are spending all this money, and when you've got the likes of Stoke out spending us every single time. Look, I've got the list here. Players we've been linked to this window. So Wenger can't come out and go, oh, the players weren't available. Draxler, 30 million to Wolfsburg. Vidal, 28 million to Bayern. Kondogbia, 28 million to Milan. Adebayor, that's him. AA to Valencia for 27 million. Jackson Martinez, 25 million to Atletico Madrid. Schneidlin, 24 million Man United. Pedro, 21 million Chelsea.
Can I just stop you on one of those?
No, you can't. 13. Okay. Mandzukic, 13 million to Juventus. Matty Milner to Man City for free. We were linked with all of those, and all of those could have done a job with us. And it's bullshit. The fact that we have got absolutely fucking no, and he will just come out and go, the right players weren't available. We got more money than fucking Any other team in the
not
Premier
what
League?
It's Morgan Schneiderlin,
Sitting in the back.
£24 million.
It's
Are
just
you
a number.
kidding me?
He
It
also
isn't a
wanted,
number, though, is it? It's
he
not.
also wanted 140
numbers.
grand a week.
Exactly, it's fucking
Yeah.
ridiculous. Don't get me wrong, I'm with you, Danny. Sorry, Joe. I'm with you, Danny. I agree. I agree the ticket prices are high, blah, 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 blah. Nobody pins any fan down and says to them, you must go to the Emirates, you must buy all 3 shirts, you must do this, you must do that. Nobody forces anybody. If you really detest the club or the manager or the board, or if you really hate it that much, just don't fucking watch. Don't support the team. Take up crochet, take up knitting. Equally, I'm not saying that if you love the club, you shouldn't have an opinion. You've got every right to be angry if you want to be angry. You've got every right to criticise the manager. You've got every right to criticise the players. But don't just fucking sit there and bang a drum. And then when somebody questions it and goes, well, actually, maybe the manager might have an idea. And the best comeback people can give is, well, he's fucking clueless, isn't he? Yes, of course he's clueless. He's only been at the club for 15 fucking years. Yeah, he's got no idea, has he? Fucking morons. It pisses me off. Sorry.
Chris, I don't think it's as bad as that for where I'm standing, though. For me, I think it's certainly I'm not overly frustrated either. I see an opportunity missed is probably the more accurate picture in this. You know, we're so close talent-wise and team makeup-wise to more than being a contender, being a favorite perhaps is even a better term for the title. And you see what City has done for their club. And you see, even though it's been a complete cluster, what United tried to do and failed miserably at. You would have liked to have seen Arsenal sign somebody that could reinforce the team, perhaps bring some competition in. Somebody like Aaron Ramsey, who I happen to rate highly, has not had a good start to the season, and part of that, I believe, is because he feels no pressure from anybody coming in to challenge for his spot. His name is on the team sheet first thing, no matter what, and when he has a bad game, there's no threat of him being dropped to the bench. And to me, that's because we don't have anybody better who can even come in and compete and challenge for that spot. And I think that's more where my frustration comes from, is that they're so close, and 1 or 2 signings could have really put them over the top.
So basically, I've seen a tweet here. Sorry, one sec. Julian Lorenz has just tweeted that Arsenal and Arsene Wenger are not trying to sign Edinson Cavani or Adrian Rabiot from PSG, and they would not sell anyway.
Well, that's good.
And so I'll 2 things. So first, on Adam's point, I agree, but I disagree about Ramsey. Ramsey hasn't been held as much accountable as he should be. He hasn't been on form, but you could also argue he hasn't been playing well because he's been playing out of position. And really, the player that should be playing on the right isn't. And that's not down to lack of accountability. It's down to Wenger's tactics, which have been poor, but that's a whole other debate. But I do agree that competition helps get the best out of your players, but the problem is the players that all these fans want us to bring in are players that don't want competition. They're players that want to walk in and come in and be in the first team. So Schneiderlin, for example, he's started every match for United since he's been there. There's no guarantee that he would have started for us since he came here, and he wanted the guarantee he'd be playing. He also won $140,000 a week, which we're not going to pay Morgan Schneiderlin for. People then will cite players like a couple names that Danny threw out, Julian Draxler, who I actually rate very highly, who I love. The problem is, what people don't grasp, is that Germans don't want to leave Germany unless they're going to a club that is of top value, which is why Kruse and Ozil went to Real Madrid, because there was the step above Bayern Munich. So when people say they want the Draxlers and the Bender twins and all those players, they have no reason to leave Germany because that's not in their best interest to do it. So there's that. And that's why we're saying when players aren't available. The players are available, but the players that we kind of need aren't available. So Kondogbia would want to come here and start, but there's no guarantee he'll start over Coquelin. So really, the players we kind of do need this summer aren't players to come in and take a starting role. It's players that come in and give us strength and depth. But those are the players that the fans don't want. The fans want the Cavani's and the Benzemas and the Marco Reus's and those kind of players, but those aren't the players we need, at least not in my opinion. So.
And why is it that if you're happy with the current squad that you're apparently settling for 4th? Why is that? Sorry, it's utterly stupid thing to say.
Our squad on paper was fantastic before all these fuckwits started dropping all the money late in the window. If those deals didn't happen, I would take our squad against cities and say in a one-off, I think we could beat them. We beat Chelsea before they started spending in the fucking community shield. People forget that.
That's the only thing I would say. That's the only thing I would say, and this is where I do think people are right when people moan about not having signings today. This is the one thing that I will say I think people are right on. City and Chelsea have strengthened since the start of the season, where obviously we've had a bit of a stuttering start, and that's probably where I'd say okay, fine. I'm not against assigning people. I'm not even against assigning squad players. In fact, I'd quite like a couple of squad players. But if the players are not available, or if they don't fit the system and they don't fit the club that they're coming to, why spend the money just because it's there? I can't get my head around that one.
And Chelsea are spending and they're still losing. Yeah, Pedro came in, had an excellent debut, but has it really done them that much good? They're still dropping points that they really shouldn't be dropping.
Look at West Ham today. They've signed 4 players just today. Alex Song, Victor Moses, Nikola Jelavic, and they've just agreed to deal with Nottingham Forest for their
Mikel Antonio.
Mikel Antonio. So that just shows it can be done. Would we have had Song back on loan as cover?
God,
absolutely.
No, but why would you?
Yeah, but Bharg, Dimitri Payet, all those players are West Ham's level. That's the thing. And it's not to talk shit about West Ham, but to be honest, Nikita Jelavic belongs at a club like West Ham, not a club that is a tier or 2 higher. So they're making deals that are on their level. Our level of making deals needs to be far above that. I would have taken Dimitri Payet because I rate him very highly, but it wasn't in the card spread. But that's the thing. We're operating on a level where we need to go for players that are either very, very good or the best in the business at what they do. And unfortunately, there's a ton of other clubs who also want moves for those players. And unfortunately, all those best players are already at the best clubs in the world, so why would that club want to sell? That's what I'm saying. They're not under pressure to sell. So.
And what, sorry?
Buzzing.
Am I really? I do apologise.
Let Ellis and Adam have a chat.
Yes, Ellis.
I think if you have a look at Man City, essentially their squad's pretty similar to last season, except they spent 60 million on someone who is basically flopped at Chelsea.
And Sterling, who Sterling will make an incredible difference for him.
Oh boy.
I don't know. I don't know if he will. I think he started all right, but
I think he's already shown that he has done. They had someone on the left-hand side. They addressed the problem. They found who they needed, and they paid the money and they bought them. I know transfers aren't that simple, but like I said at the start of this, everyone here knows where Arsenal are lacking depth, where we need new players, and they failed to address the problems. It's not like they haven't had time to do it, because they've had ever since the January transfer window shut to try and get people in. I can't buy the whole argument that there's no one available. I can't buy that.
I don't think it's that. I think it's what the guys have said. Arsenal thing is not going to buy someone or spend a lot of money on someone who's essentially not going to start. He's only going to buy someone who's going to either better the players that we have in the squad at the moment. And I do think Danny reeled a list of players out there, and I probably could pick 3 people out of that list of players that I thought would probably improve our squad, and that's probably Schneiderlin, but then is he going to get in ahead of Coquelin? Vidal, yeah, he probably would as well. But
Draxler.
There's a reason why Manchester United have just had to pay £36 million for an unproven 19-year-old French striker that will probably not live up to expectation. And that reason is
paying that much money for some sperm in a jar. He's that young.
Yeah, absolutely. But the reason they've taken that gamble is because Edinson Cavani or Karim Benzema or Robert Lewandowski are not for sale, and the clubs will not sell them. We could rock up at PSG and go, hello, we'll sell you the equivalent of the Eiffel Tower's worth of money for your player. And they can still go, no. What can we do? What are we supposed to do? Just park up and back a lorry into him and steal him under it, put his head in put a sack over his head and wheel him out the back. If the clubs don't want to sell these players, they're not available. And I guarantee you this, if we go out today, right, the next 2 hours, and we sign Charlie Austin and he's a flop, can you imagine what everyone would say then? Oh, fucking Wenger, he's wasted all that fucking money on this fucking player, he's bollocks. What, the same player that you were begging us to spend 15 million on 2 months ago? It's I don't get it. Why waste it? I would much rather we go and get somebody who's maybe unproven, who may be worth a shot. And that's why I do agree. Yeah, bodies definitely, but I think we should bring in some bodies. But you can't force players to be available.
That's the thing, though. I think a lot of people on like Twitter are getting really desperate now, and you'll see them tweet and they'll be like, "We want Benzema," and then it goes down to Cavani, and then it's getting lower and lower, and soon we'll be linked to play Solomon Kalou again.
Yep, there's all these people saying, "Oh, why didn't we move earlier for Andre Ayew, or why didn't we move earlier for Payet?" And don't get me wrong, I love both players, but you know that they're performing brilliantly at clubs that suit the level they're at right at this particular second. Because Andre Ayew probably wouldn't get in Arsenal's side. He just wouldn't, because he wouldn't get ahead of Aaron Ramsey.
And Villa's rocking it up at Sunderland. We should have had him. The 12 chances we had him.
You mean did they finally let him out of Colney?
Yeah, he's still there. He's out of his medical. There are a few, though, Gim. In fairness to your argument, there are a few that I can't deny that we probably could have gambled on. I mean, I wanted Vidal, 100%. I'm a massive fan of Carlos Bacca, who's gone to, of all places, AC Milan, who are not even in Europe. And I think he would have been, if you want to take a gamble, I mean, I think they got him for 20 odd million. I mean, he'd have got goals in the Premier League. So yeah, there are players that absolutely 100% Arsene Wenger has probably made a mistake on. You know, he's a human being. He does make mistakes, and you know, he's a stubborn old fucker. He is. He'd probably tell you that himself. I'm not making excuses for the guy.
Looks like the Guzman deal is off.
Yeah, well, I think it was this morning, wasn't it? But yeah, I mean, you know, the guy makes errors. Nobody, not even Geoff, God bless his soul, can say Arsene Wenger is not above criticism, because he's not. No manager is. But I just don't see what throwing millions and millions of pounds at bog average players is going to do for us.
Just a quick point, and then Adam and Ellis, you guys please fire away for all it's worth for the second half of the pod. Simon made a very interesting point in the chat. He said that Sheikh Mansour is so rich he can buy Kevin De Bruyne every 12 hours. That's what we're talking about when we're saying that City and Chelsea have bottomless pits of money. We can't.
And who's got more money than those? Isn't it Usmanov?
Yeah, Usmanov has more money than Abramovich, not Mansour. Mansour is like the fourth richest person on the planet. So that's what we're
to have him
talking
assassinated.
Who knows? And real quick, I know you're going to talk about how City just spent money on De Bruyne, who flopped at Chelsea. To be fair, he didn't flop at Chelsea because he never played for Chelsea, because they loaned him out for the entire 2 years. He was on their books and then they sold him. But he proved in Germany he's a very, very good player. But I don't know if he'll fit City because he's playing at
He'll do well at City, I think.
I think he will, because
I can't believe that De Bruyne, his main competition for spots is going to be David Silva. They won't drop David Silva.
No,
it makes no sense.
They're going to play De Bruyne on the right, and Silva's going to stay central. They're going to drop, what's-his-face, Jesus Navas. And De Bruyne will start. He'll walk into that team easily because he's that good.
Fucking pikey.
Yeah, anyway, Ellis, Adam, have at it.
Well, no, we should start to wrap this up then, because we've got to be back on at 4 o'clock, and I've got to shoot off. Kris, you're taking the reins at 4, aren't you?
Yeah, I promise I'll be better behaved. Sorry.
And you know that's all right. And you've got to be you are going to be joined by the real Josh Daw, Colin, who is at Much FIFA, John Welsh, and Aaqib.
Yes, and Danny, of course.
Oh, I'll be here just making irrelevant comments.
No, not at all.
So, but thank you very much, Adam, Drew, Ellis, Kris, and Danny. It's been a pleasure, as it always is.
They didn't ask those three who they wanted to sign if they could have one player.
Oh, let's be honest, it ain't fucking happening now, is it?
Play the game. Just let them. Might have something.
All right, play the game. To everybody, who are we going to sign? Are we going to sign anybody, and who? Drew. That rhymed.
I mean, I would actually take a gamble on Colin Wilson at this point, but that's just me.
Okie dokie. Ellis?
I think we're going to sign a Bue as a player manager.
Now that I would pay to see.
Magic. And Adam?
I don't think we're going to sign anybody, but if we do, it's going to be Abu Dhabi in the 18th return, since the 17th return, and then the 20th return.
Will all his limbs come in individual bags?
Just his right leg.
It's like Build-A-Bear.
What we needed was Abu Dhabi. Like, do you remember those crash test dummies that you put in the car and you crashed them? It's literally when an arm pops off, just slot it back in. Thank you very much. So
Kris,
that was.
Oh, hold on before you go, Kris. What was that tweet you told us yesterday about sack Wenger? Get a striker. Rehire Wenger.
Oh no, it wasn't me. I think you pointed out.
I've only just read it.
Great.
It was something like sack Wenger, bring in defensive midfielder, striker, rehire Wenger, or something like that. Yeah.
It was sack Wenger, bring in new manager. New manager goes out and gets striker, fire new manager, rehire Wenger.
Or the easiest way around all of that is just bring David Dean back, and then you've got problem solved, haven't you?
Yes. And on that note, so that was a Bergkamp Wonderland Deadline Day special part 4.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening, and keep it Arsenal. Goodbye.
Good afternoon, welcome back. Here we are again. As Danny just said, it only feels like 5 minutes ago. Apparently it was 15 minutes, but it's all rolled into one. I am Kris, as you know, from all day. I'm back again. I am ably assisted by the tech button monkey, Danny. All right, Danny boy?
Well, no, bored already. I've got no food and there's no offspring here to go and make me stuff.
You've only been up 2 hours and you're bored already. That's quite worrying, isn't it? I'm also joined by regular radio man of the bearded parish, Mr. Welsh. All right, Johnny boy?
You said Melsh then.
I did say Melsh, yeah.
I can't even say my name right. How long have we been doing this?
Mon Jelsh. There he is.
Hello.
We're also joined by a friend of the pod and prize-winning Aaqib. All right, Aaqib?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me on.
Always a pleasure, mate. No worries. Sorry about earlier on. We also have the FIFA legend, Colin. How are you doing, Cole?
I wouldn't say I'm a FIFA legend, but other than that, I'm doing all right.
Good stuff, mate. You are whatever we call you is what you are. That's the rules in it.
Usually applies to me only, though.
Yeah, it does. And last but not least, we're joined by Josh, who is going to be coming on the radio show soon, because I promise I haven't forgotten him. You all right, Josh?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks, Kris. How you doing?
Good stuff, mate. All gravy, all gravy. Right, so I'm taking over the reins just for now because Gim has gone to pick up Kate. So
I've got a great quote from someone in the chat window already.
Go for it.
Carl Walker. For an
yeah.
Arsenal fan, watching Deadline Day is like watching your girlfriend sleep with another man. A better looking man.
Or watching your girlfriend
Winkle.
sleep with another man's girlfriend. Probably even. Well, actually, no, that would be probably a good thing.
All
wouldn't
right, Christopher, stop it.
it? Right, moving on. So, can Peter Jack play up front from Bill McGinty? Very good with his head, I hear. Right, okay, so I'm not going to do much talking in this one because people would probably get
You
bored.
wouldn't shut up for the last one.
No, well, I had to let it go, Danny. It was weighing me down.
It was.
Right, let's go straight. Let's start with Aaqib. Aaqib, just give us your thoughts on today. Are you in the losing your shit camp, or are you in the kind of whatever will be camp?
I'm in the whatever will be camp. I honestly think that we do have a decent squad. We can challenge for the title. I do understand why people are upset, but I think that we have a decent squad. We have the strikers. I think just the players just need to step up a bit more. I mean, Aaron Ramsey hasn't had the best start to the season. Giroud hasn't either. But, I think people are upset, but they need to calm down. It's obvious that Wenger has tried. I mean, in my opinion, the players haven't been available. And if the club doesn't want to sell, we're not going to get them. That's a fact. I think we have a decent squad. We can challenge. It's just us supporting the team and getting behind the players.
Yeah, here, and obviously we've been over the player availability thing. I know people have got their own opinions on that, but I'm with you on that one. Colin, what do you make of today? I mean, are you kind of in that sort of stage of the day where you just like to see anyone come in now, or are you kind of resigned to the fact that this is what we've got and that is the way it'll be?
You know what? I've just given up on Arsenal signing a striker. Like, for the last 3 years, and this is when we should have done it, when Van Persie left, right, we should have replaced him there and then, right? And now, I mean, I'm not saying Giroud's bad, like, because he's not, but right now, we just look toothless up front.
Sorry, I thought you were going to go into more than I was getting comfy. I was like, here comes a rant. I agree with you. I agree with you, particularly on the Van Persie thing. But the less said about him, the better. Just give us your take on it. Again, similar question, but kind of on the same lines. I mean, are you Are you in that? Are you in the small camp of people that suggest that maybe we should take a gamble, quote unquote, on somebody now, or again, are you more kind of in the camp maybe that I'm in, where it's like, well, yeah, we've got money, but we don't need to spend it necessarily?
Yeah, I'm a bit confused about really who we should have actually be bringing in, because when you see the team play, Wenger can't even make a substitution, without upsetting the balance of the team. You're trying to find someone else to fit into that's going to bring us something different. And to be honest, I think just consolidating our options wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, and come back to it in January, especially around a striker.
And are you of the same opinion that I know I'm in the same opinion. I know Drew, who was on previously, is that it's not necessarily the players we should be signing, but it's more about using the players we've already got correctly, i.e. tweaking the tactics a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best thing to do. We've got that problem of who we're playing at wing back, and then who sits directly in front of them. We're overly reliant on Bellerin now, and I think that should have been addressed potentially more of a right winger. Whether or not we kick Theo back out there, it's to be seen. I'm more annoyed that we haven't got Joel Campbell out. Not necessarily sell him, but somewhere like Bournemouth, Max Gradle's just injured. Be a bit more aggressive in the transfer window and say, look, you need a left-footed left winger. We've got one. Take him. Get him some Premier League experience for him.
And we'll have Callum Wilson in return.
Yeah, absolutely. In a perfect world.
John, what's your thoughts? I know we've talked at length over the past few days and on the radio shows about what's going to happen, what's not going to happen. I think you and I were both in the camp that we thought one would come in. Are you still sticking by your guns with 2 hours to go, or have you kind of decided that this is that?
I think 2 hours ago I said Kevin Doyle was coming, didn't I? I don't know who now. I mean, what? Less than 2 hours. I mean, there's not even anyone to fucking gamble on. I'm just disappointed that we haven't. The fact that it's been left this late, and there is no one. And I do agree that the side is good. I'm not sure whether it can definitely compete, just because of the fact that City and Chelsea have gone out and invested since the start of the season now in new players, so that makes it a lot harder. I know Chelsea are in terrible form at the moment, but that can change around very quickly, as can our form. We're still making chances, but I just want someone as a different option to Giroud. I don't have a problem with him being in the squad. Don't have a problem with him playing. There needs to be someone different when he's out of form, and we just haven't got that at the moment. If Welbeck was fit, then maybe, but I'm still not convinced on Welbeck. And I think Mark King actually made a really good point earlier. I'm still trying to catch up with all the pods you've done throughout the day, but he was saying that Wenger had taken a risk before, because he proved it last year when he signed Welbeck. So I don't see why he hasn't taken a punt on someone else, because I think it's worth it taking a punt, because the squad is almost there, and it's the same fucking thing every year, isn't it? The squad is almost there yet again.
One or two
it's just frustrating. So I fully expect everyone to completely lose their shit as soon as 6 o'clock comes around, because we probably won't have signed anyone, and I don't blame them, to be honest, because I'm not particularly happy about it.
Most people have lost their shit already, let's be honest, but you're right.
That's true.
That noise you heard there was the phone call. That was us, and just give me a bell to thank me for my law support, so that's all good. I'm joking, of course. Danny, you've been very outspoken. I think for the first time ever, we had a crossword in the last pod, didn't we? We made up. We kissed, and it was all good. And
I didn't. I called you a tit and told you to shut up next time when I'm talking.
That class is making up in my book. John talked about a gamble. Are you still in that camp of let's gamble on what else is out there?
We shouldn't need to be in the position where we need to take a gamble. Somebody at the club needs sacking, because this happens year after year after year. All the players are out there. I read out a list of all the ones that we were linked with, all the players that we need. Now, if Sanchez gets injured, who's going to play left side? Who can play left side? Not who can fit in there. We don't have another left-sided player now that Santi's legs are the quietest feet in football and now the slowest feet in football. So there's nobody to play out on the left-hand side. So that means we're going to, if he does get injured, we're going to have Ozil wide left, we're going to have Ramsey wide right, and going to have, I don't know, Peter Cech up in the Ozil hole. It's just complete and utter nonsense. Unless he's going to get other Geoff to come in and play. So I don't know what his best position is. I think he's so young, it could be anywhere.
You just stole my thunder then, thanks for that.
That's all right, sorry. Yeah, we shouldn't be in this position every fucking summer. We started it off with brilliantly by buying a world-class goalkeeper who is now a couple of games in, back-to-back clean sheets, played superbly, and we should have built on that and gone and bought 3 or 4 other players because they've got all of that money, and as usual Wenger treats the money like it's his own pissing money. Maybe he's on a kind of percentage deal where the more money you don't spend, the bigger percentage of it you get to keep and put under your bloody piss-soaked mattress or whatever he sleeps on. I'm just really annoyed. That yet again we saw last season we lost the title because we got players injured at vital points in the season, and the same thing's going to happen now. He's going, oh well, everyone's all right. We don't need any players. But there again, he's the manager. I'm not. So what do I know?
I want to ask you all a question. Just a very short answer from all of you because I'm just intrigued by your thoughts. Do you blame the manager completely? Do you think there are mitigating factors, i.e. stuff we don't maybe know about, i.e. he's given a list of names and the scouts have not done what they should, or the negotiators have not done what they should? Do you think it's a mixture of both? Aaqib, what do you reckon?
I think it's a mixture of both, to be honest, because obviously Wenger has his targets, but the targets that he has, Benzema, Cavani, all these lot, they're not available, and you can't get them. In my opinion, you just cannot get them.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And do you think that, let's just say a player like Cavani, for example, would you have seen that as a gamble, or would you have seen that as more of a, well, it's a name, so we'll rely on the name factor, or would you say it would have been a gamble, full stop?
I think it would have been a gamble, because he hasn't had the best of seasons since he came to PSG. He's been played out wide. Does he still have that spark to him that he had at Napoli? Does he have that killer instinct that he has while he was at Napoli? I think it was a gamble. He's 28 now, is he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's probably coming into the end of his peak of his career, if you know what I mean. So I think it was a gamble for him, to be honest. I think it was.
Fair enough. Josh, do you apportion the blame specifically to anyone, i.e. the manager, or a combination of both, or do you think it's just one of those things where we just haven't been able to get the right players?
I think if you kind of look around and watch the other leagues, most of the players that we're looking for, a striker, box-to-box midfielder, are either in, the over the hill, they're in their peak probably last season, they're going to drop off this year, or they're one-season wonders, We don't know if Lacazette's going to turn it on again this year, who people were crying out for. Benzema, a year to bed in, he's then 29, 30. Technically over the hill, we don't want to be left with what Man U were with Van Persie, who one good season, yeah, he got them the title, but then you've got him on mega money doing absolute fuck all apart from getting injured.
Yeah.
So,
let me ask you that question then, because that spawns a completely different question. There are some people that would say, I'd rather we blow a big wad of money and that gets us a title, and then we lose that player for next to nothing. Would you be in that camp, or I'm guessing from your answer there you wouldn't be. You'd rather that we invest for 3 or 4 years, or at least have a player we can sell on, rather than just basically doing, as you said, the example with Van Persie was perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd need someone for at least 2 years of decent football, in the first team, scoring at least 20, 25 goals a year. And are we going to get that from anyone currently in the market? Probably not. So I think that's when Wenger said last month he wanted to take maybe a risk in the transfer market. The risk is not buying anyone, not that he was going to buy an unknown.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. Actually, I've never really thought of it from that way round. So good point. What's your thought? What's your thoughts, Colin, on that? And whether you apportion blame to anyone specifically?
I don't necessarily blame Arsene Wenger. I'm of the opinion now that there's a miscommunication between the board and Arsene Wenger, because we hear Ivan Gazidis talk, oh, we've got this amount of money to spend or this amount of money to spend, and we hear Arsene Wenger talking as if the squad is good enough. So at some point, there's got to be a point where common sense dictates either the manager and the board need to talk things through, or we need a new approach entirely.
Mm. And what would that, in your, if you were now in charge of the purse strings or in charge of transfers, what would your preferred new approach be? Would it be to go out and spend money that is, I mean, let's put it in context. Would you like us to be in Manchester United's position where we just literally went out and threw a lot of money at the wall for a very raw, unproven teenager? Or would you rather that we're in, I don't know, let's say like the Stoke model, where we don't spend massive money, but we do fill our squad with 5 or 6 new players every summer?
I wouldn't do what Man United did. I'll tell you that for nothing, because 36 million for Martial, who essentially had an average season for Monaco, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, 36 million. If you were talking to me, right, and we spent that exact same amount of money on Alexis Sanchez, right? Is Martial in the same class as Sanchez? Not a chance.
No.
I'm sorry, like, but I wouldn't do a Man United. I would go for Premier League proven, like, because in my opinion, Charlie Austin, and I know this is a bit controversial, but Charlie Austin is too good for the Championship. His talent is being wasted in that league. So if we go for him, possibly we can make up that gap, but I'm 50-50 on that, to be honest.
Sorry,
Yeah.
can I just come in right there?
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
I don't think getting second-tier players is Arsenal's targets anymore, because we've been through this with Chamak, you've got Park Ji-young, they're second-tier players.
Yep.
We're not in the market for second-tier players anymore. We want the likes of Benzema, the Ozil, Sanchez, Czech. We look for those types of players that improve the squad, not just for bodies in, because we have bodies. It's just that we need top-class players. We're not in the market for second-tier players anymore.
Yeah.
But Aaqib, here's the thing though, right? Charlie Austin was in the top bracket of Premier League goal scorers last season, and his service at QPR was not good, and they got relegated last season. So you can't say that Charlie Austin is second tier if you get into that bracket of like top 5 goal scorers in the Premier League last season.
Would you say there's an argument, Colin, for him being too similar to Giroud? I mean, I know he is a different type of striker, but would you say there's an argument that he would basically just be, essentially what we've already got?
Well, Giroud scored pretty much the same amount of goals as Charlie Austin did last season, and Giroud was injured for half of that. So if you think about it this way, I'll end on this, right? What I would do is, I'm not saying Giroud is bad by any means, but we need something different. I mean, Charlie Austin looks to be the only half-decent striker available, so why not? You know, having 2 strikers is better than having 1, in my opinion, because Walcott cannot play up front.
No, we definitely agree on that one. John, I want to ask you a loaded question, just because I can pick on you because you're one of my own.
Thanks.
The Aaqib and Colin just brought up a very sort of interesting point that I want to just debate with you here. What is a second-tier player now? I mean, would you, for example, say, okay, we know what the top-tier players are. We know that a Cavani or a Benzema are what we would call top-tier. Whether we agree with that or not, that's what people think. Now, would you say, for example, a Julian Draxler is a second-tier player, or would you say that a second-tier player is a Charlie Austin? I mean, what qualifies a second-tier or a top-tier player nowadays?
Opinion, unfortunately, which is why it's completely subjective. Julian Draxler, yeah, I'd probably qualify him as a second-tier player. I like him; he's a good player, but he hasn't shown amazing performances since he's come back from his injury. Doesn't mean he's not going to, and doesn't mean we shouldn't have taken a punt on him. Yeah, it was probably a gamble worth taking, because he's young enough that even if it didn't work out, you could still sell him on and not lose out. I mean, when it comes to money and finance, I'm not overly bothered anyway, because it's not my money, so I couldn't really give a shit. They can spend whatever they fucking want. You know, I know some people will say, well, that affects the ticket prices. It doesn't. They're still going to fleece you for tickets, no matter how much they spend on players. So, you know, that's a completely separate issue. Charlie Austin, yeah, I wouldn't. It wouldn't be exciting, but it's not someone I wouldn't say no to it necessarily. I think he'd get goals for us, but I do get Aaqib's point that we are looking at the so-called top-tier talent. But I think in that there's a bit of naivety, and I think that does all come from Wenger. Going back to the original question, I think that is all from Wenger because we're not going to get those players. They're not going to come and join us.
Yeah.
They're only going to join if they are essentially booted out the door, and the way that Ozil was basically kicked out to make room at Madrid for when Bale was coming in, and Sanchez for Suarez going into Barcelona. It's the only way we're realistically going to get those players, or if they're coming towards the end of their career, at, say like Bayern Munich with Schweinsteiger going to Man United. Just to get anyone excited who hasn't seen it in the chat, apparently the Standard are reporting that PSG have made Arsenal aware of Zlatan Ibrahimovic's availability.
Absolute bollocks.
If it's in the Standard, it's got to be true.
Yeah,
I'm sure Gold.com are
just,
writing it as we speak.
Just to upset everyone, which is more than likely is actually true, is that Chelsea have had 2 bids rejected for Marquinhos.
Yeah.
So see, other clubs are still doing business.
It's kind of funny though, isn't it? Chelsea wanted John Stones, and now they've bought Dilavogui. That they're trying to buy Hector, and now they're after Marquinhos. So from one defender, they now suddenly want 3.
Yeah.
Quite sure what that's about, but to each their own.
I personally portion all the blame to Wenger because, well, I suppose part of it's got to go to the board because no one's there is brave enough to go up to him and slap him around the face and say, "Oi, fucking do something." To be honest, because if David Dean was there, he'd either go out and do it himself, or he would give him a slap. I don't think everyone at that club will do whatever he says and say, "Yep, okay, that's the right thing." Kroenke's not going to care because as long as he's getting his money each year, he couldn't give a shit. We've seen that. That's the way he runs his sports teams in America. And Gazidis, I mean, does he really care? I don't know whether he's really actually into football or is he just a businessman. He's there and he's getting paid a nice sum of money, does his job quietly, gets on with it, and that's all he's interested in. So you have to blame the manager because he's the one who has final say, as far as we know anyway, and as far as we've been told, he has final say on absolutely everything at the club. I think he even picked the cutlery for the restaurants at the Emirates and stuff, didn't he? So that's where the blame's got to go ultimately. Whether you think it's a lack of transfer activity that's going to cost us challenging for the title, or a lack of tactical flexibility within the squad we've already got, that ultimately all comes back to the manager. I am not a Wenger out, and I am not a Wenger in. I am a do your job properly, regardless of what your name is, because I couldn't give a shit.
A realist, I think, is the word.
Did you not think he was changing his way of buying players when we brought in Gabriel, who he admitted he'd never seen play, but bought him purely on stats in January?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said with the Welbeck thing, he's shown he'll take a gamble as well. This is what frustrates me. If he's gone into this summer thinking, right, I'm going to get myself Benzema or Cavani or someone of that ilk, he must be sensible enough to know that Real Madrid aren't going to sell Benzema unless they get a replacement. And Cavani, he's not going to leave PSG unless they have someone of his... I mean, I don't think he's as good as everyone says he is, but of his supposed talent. Because Ibrahimovic is, the wrong side of 30 and most likely going to leave next year. So he's not stupid enough to not realise that those players are going to be extremely difficult to get. So he must say... In that case, then you've got to say, right, okay, these are who I definitely want. If we can't get them, then go for these players. And he's obviously, and we know he likes to leave it late because he thinks you can get more of a bargain and maybe get it cheaper because he's done it in the past. But I think it's stupid because then what that means is players like who, all right, I wouldn't have been happy with at the time if we got, say, like Jackson Martinez or you said earlier, Kris, Carlos Bacca. If we'd signed them early in the summer, I probably would have gone, oh, well, okay, it's okay, I'm not that happy. But if it was now, I'd be like, yeah, I'll take them because there is no one else and we need backup. You know what I mean? And that leaving it late means that all those players are gone and you know they're going to go.
Yeah.
So he's shot himself in the foot, basically, is what I'm saying.
No, I think you make some very, very excellent points there. And Danny, sort of beautifully transitioning to you, when we were talking about a Charlie Austin, for example, is it a mark of where we start? We always start the summer, and Arsenal fans are as bad as any fans I know, where we all get excited at the start of the window. We all say, oh, we brought Czech in early, and everyone was like, yeah, we're going to bring in these players, this player, that player. And now we're sat here on deadline day, and there's people legitimately begging for, no disrespect, but for Charlie Austin. Now, if you'd have said to somebody we're going to go for Charlie Austin in June, they'd have probably caved your head in with a brick. So what, I mean, you like Austin, don't you? So
I do.
What's your views
I
on?
like Austin to be my third choice striker behind when if Giroud gets injured, he could do the Giroud job. He wouldn't be able to do the defensive bit and hold up the entire team. I mean, now he'd play with his back to goal and do all of that lot. But he's a decent striker who knows where the goal is. He's not afraid to have a shot, which is what we are. We are far too afraid to have shots far too often. We'll be dilly-dallying it around the edge of the box, passing it around. You see, when he played us, he had about 3 or 4 shots from nowhere. I think, did he score one of them, or one of them nearly went in? That's just, we need players that's up for a fight, and some of our players at the club just seem like they have just lost the will sometimes. But I think we're not going to do too bad as long as we don't get injuries. And if we do get injuries, what are we going to do? Because we've got no backup on the left and we've got no backup big striker. And then we are going to go, just like we did last season, our season's going to fall apart from 1 or 2 injuries. And we've got no decent athletic backup for Mad Frankie either. Because if he gets injured, we are knackered, because he is going to get a suspension. And you saw the way that he is getting so stuck. He is 100% committed to every single tackle. And eventually he's going to end up getting sent off, or he's going to end up getting injured. And when he does, what's going to happen? We're going to have to rely on Arteta, who I think can do the job when he's coming on as a sub, or maybe after he's had a run of a few games and he's got his fitness back. But he's been out for best part of a season. And Flamini, well, I mean, I do like the Flame, but he can't do the job, can he? He's never going to be as athletic as Mad Frank, and he's never going to be as good a player as he is. He's on the way down as a player. But the only thing he has got is the ability to pick up yellow cards like Mad Frankie does.
I've got a feeling it will be Jack Wilshere that will take that
just
role.
To show you desperation, there are people posting pictures of Pato, who's been offered to every club in the Premier League. Every single club has turned them down.
Yeah,
even Spurs.
He's being hoisted around everywhere, isn't he? Yeah, I agree. Danny, just want to stick with you for a second and ask you this question, because obviously you have been around actually longer than me, which is saying something. But you're an old school fan from the days, you remember the George Graham era, etc. Is there a danger that once again the fan base will massively turn if this window closes today? Irrespective of whether we sign somebody or not, but particularly if we don't, is there a danger that the fan base or all those people that are already on the manager's back will just be sitting there waiting for somebody to get injured, waiting for us to have a catastrophic defeat? And is that ultimately going to affect the whole team? Because let's not forget, the players have got ears. The support gets affected if the fans are at each other's throats. We saw what happened at West Brom last year with a banner twat. What is there a danger that this goes deeper than just a transfer window?
Well, it depends on if we start losing or not. If we go on a fantastic run and we go up until Christmas undefeated, which is completely possible now that everyone seems to be picking up a bit of form, then they'll be all right, and then we'll be banking on the transfer window in January, doing the same thing again that we do every year, sitting around talking about everything other than the new players that we signed, because we just do it every single time. So without injuries, and with Shad being there, everyone's got to admit that we have had a hell of a lot less injuries.
Absolutely, yeah.
So partly with that, partly the fact we've got a really good team as it is, and our best 11 fully fit could win. If they stayed fit all season, we could have a really good chance of winning the title if they had the confidence, if we didn't keep playing the wrong players in the wrong position. But Wenger's always been famous for that. I mean, Podolski and Arshavin out wide left, Ozil out wide left. He just seems to think just because they're good players they can play wherever he wants them to play, and it doesn't work. You saw as soon as Ramsey cut in the other day, he was brilliant. He scored a goal. That's what we need in the centre of midfield. We need someone who's going to score goals, because I reckon if you put Ramsey in the Ozil hole, we'd get more goals from Ramsey than with Ozil. May not get as many assists or second assists, but we definitely get more goals. But I'm not one to question the manager, because if I knew anything, I'd be a manager myself.
True, and that would be quite fun. I've got to be honest.
Sacked.
Josh, I want to ask you this question, because Pete Geary has brought this up twice that I remember in the chat box, maybe 3 times, and I want to address it. And Pete simply says, "What about the sponsors?" Now, I think I might be wrong on this, Pete, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what Pete's basically saying there is, we're a big fashionable club in one of the biggest cities in the world. Is there a bit of pressure potentially from the sponsors saying, look, we don't want you to be bringing in a Charlie Austin, a Callum Wilson, whoever? Is there potentially some of the sponsorship saying, no, if you can't get the big names, then we would rather you didn't go for anyone? And obviously the manager makes a decision, but what's your view on whether our sponsorship has anything, if anything, to do with the situation we're in?
Absolutely, but it works in two ways. You know, not only could they say don't bring in this player, but the other way around. They've always, maybe on a sad one, but go onto Puma's page and look at their athletes.
Yeah.
Marco Reus over in Dortmund. You've got Alexis Sanchez, and you think they've already got a big guy. You know, their poster boy for that country sorted. Puma don't need to shift Marco Reus over, because if they do, they'll pay his wages. They'll give him a little extra bonus just to bring him over and help their global brand. So I don't know. I think that's probably not an issue with our transfer window.
No.
Probably a bit more. If we said to Puma, we want to bring Royce over, I'm sure they'd happily say yes, and we'll help you out.
And I guess that also extends to, you know, we're not going to get into tickets today, but I guess that extends to the ticket argument. The bigger the names you bring in, the more likely people are going to pay to see the team play. I suppose that would be the other argument. But
yeah, well, we sell out every week almost.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah. And as people have made this point on this podcast many times, I know Raj has made this point, as has Mark on the ticketing, is that unfortunately, however many people refuse season tickets or refuse to pay them, there's another 20, 30, 40,000 ready to snap those tickets up. So you're never really going to see a dent in it unless all of a sudden 60,000 people don't want to go, which will probably never happen. So there's a bit of a vicious circle. We're going to sort of get to the final knockings, last sort of 10 minutes or so. I just want to just touch briefly on some of the other business that's been done throughout the window, and I'll start on a negative and try and bring it to a positive. We'll start on the slightly negative side. Colin, do you think there's any possibility that with us arguably not making a move or stagnating, whatever you want to call it, not pulling the trigger, do you think there's any argument that certain teams have potentially caught us up and will now rival us for those top 3-4 positions in the league, or do you still think ultimately we're too good to be caught by those teams below us?
It's very likely that we could potentially drop out of the top 4, because you look at, I know people going about, you know, they don't care about who Stoke have signed, they don't care about who Everton have signed. Well, all I would say to that is, look at the amount of money being literally ploughed into the Premier League, right? And when you look at the signings that Stoke have made, right, with that money, there's only a matter of time before Arsenal drop out the top 4 if we're not careful. If we don't sign someone like potentially world class in the next few years, we could potentially drop out the top 4. And to me, if that happens, our business model goes down the drain.
Yeah. It's a worry. I think it's fair to say it's a worry. Aaqib, do you feel that obviously you look at sort of teams that are direct rivals to us? Obviously, you know, you look at what Manchester City have done, what Chelsea have done. Do you feel that, let's say we get to Christmas and we're still in the hunt, do you think that this will just repeat itself again in January and that we'll all be going, oh, we just could do with a couple more to get us over the line? Or do you think that if we do stay up there with Man City and Chelsea, do you think Arsenal will go, well, there you go, told you so, we can stick this out, and then we inevitably don't quite do it again?
I think I want to go with your second point, because obviously he really believes in the squad. He thinks we could win the league, otherwise he would have bought a few players. But if we are still in the hunt after Christmas, and we're in a January transfer window, I don't think he will strengthen, and I don't think he will do a massive strengthening in next summer's transfer window either, unless someone leaves, someone big leaves. But you know, you never know. You just never know with Arsenal. We could fall off, which Twitter will go absolutely mental. But we could we could challenge. I mean, our fitness is getting better. We don't have many injuries other than Wilshere and Welbeck, and they're both back after the international break, so we basically have a full squad. But you know, you never know. I think we will be in the hunt for the titles. I think we will at least challenge.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And John, to round off your bit on this as well, it's people have forgotten him because he's been injured for so much this season. But we do have a striker by the name of Danny Welbeck, and you know, whether you rate him or you don't, I think Don was saying the other night, this has got to be, you know, if particularly if we don't sign anybody, this is a massive season for him, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I'd probably go as far to say as it's make or break for him, because he really needs to do something this year, because we didn't invest a lot in him. You know, I know he's well liked at the club and he gets on with the English players, obviously. He's got all the physical attributes to be exactly what we need, because he's big and strong, good in the air, he's a great athlete, he covers the ground really well, he's very quick, he works hard. If he can sort his finishing out, you know, Arsenal's proved in the past he can obviously develop very good strikers. He's done it before.
Yeah.
I think the caveat I put on that is that they were players who had the natural ability already. I don't know whether Welbeck has that. I'm not convinced. Is he going to be a bit like Theo Walcott in that he's got the athletic ability, if not the football ability?
Football brain, yeah.
Yeah. I think he's got the brain. I don't think he suffers from the same thing. To be honest, I think Theo Walcott is one of the stupidest footballers I've ever seen on the pitch. I just think he hasn't got a fucking brain at all. But
one-dimensional.
Yeah, I think he's got. It's whether he's got the technique to do it. I hope he has, because I really like him, and you know he does give a lot to the team. It's whether he gets the chance. I think if he was fit now, I would rather see him through the middle than Walcott. That's for sure.
Oh, gotcha.
But you know that it's really difficult to see who else plays if Giroud isn't fit. You know, it's got to be him. And then if it's not Welbeck, you know, are we sticking Sanchez up front when he's not really a striker? You know, are we putting Walcott back in there? I don't see where we're going to go with it.
No, it's a tough one. And the final question to you, Danny: are you delighted that it appears Joel Campbell will be staying?
I'd like to see him given a chance. I mean, what's his best position? Is it in the 10? Is it as the striker? Is it playing off a striker? Is it either the wing? I mean, does anyone know for certain what's his best position?
It was supposed to be a joke, but now we're going seriously. Left side of the attacking three, I think, is where. Although for Costa Rica, he does play as a 9. So
is he left or right-footed?
Left-footed, I believe.
Well, I'm going to go and have a look at Transfer Market, because they give you a breakdown on every single player, and so you think he's definitely staying?
Well, it would appear so, because I got told he was going to Rennes last night, and that appears to have not happened. So, you know, unless there's something done late with an English club,
I can't even find him in our bloody squad.
He's not going to drop down. He's not going to drop down to Championship level, is he? And how many Premier League clubs need a left-sided player other than Bournemouth that we mentioned?
Sorry to come in. This is the thing that really annoys me. I think Josh was sort of mentioning it. I don't know if he was as angry as I am, but the fact that Joel Campbell is still at the club is fucking ridiculous. He was clearly not at all in the manager's plans. They wanted rid of him. And, you know, then he's on the bench at the weekend because apparently we have no one else to put on there. And now he's staying at the club because we haven't signed anyone and we might have to play him because we're short of players. I mean, I'm sorry, that is fucking embarrassing. That is ridiculous.
Well, I'm just looking at Transfer Market, and he says he's left-footed. His main position is right wing, but his other two positions is as a centre forward and a left wing. Well, if he's left-footed and can play left wing, then maybe that's why they're keeping him as a backup to Sanchez. But I think he's still here because the club were talking about 6-7 million quid, weren't they?
Yeah.
He's not worth that. We should ask for about 2 or 3 million if we want to get rid of him. He's no doubt not on very high wages, so if he hasn't got a point in the club, get rid of him. So maybe if he's going to keep him.
we don't know if the players turn down a move. I mean, look at Adebayor. You know, I mean, he hasn't even got Aaron Lennon. They haven't even got squad numbers, and they can't get rid of him because they don't want to take offers that they've been offered. So there's no guarantee that the players just said, "Well, I don't want to move," and you can't force a player to leave. But what I would say, and I do agree with John on this to a degree, how the fuck does a player feel? How would Joel Campbell feel now if we said to him, "Right, next week we've got injuries, we need you to start and lead the line"? I mean, how must his confidence be? He must be sat there thinking, well, hang on a minute, am I here? Am I not here? You know, you loan me out for 2 years, then you bring me back, then you tell me that you want to give me a chance and I don't play. Then I got shout at by an orc in Stoke. You know, I mean,
we've been going 41 minutes. Need to wrap this up so I can go and have a lay down.
For all of 10 minutes, when you're back again. Okay, I'll ask you all a one-word answer then, and we'll wrap this beauty up. We'll start with you, Danny. Are we signing anyone, yes or no?
No.
Okay, John?
Chris Kawomya.
Oh, living the dream. Josh?
No, definitely not.
Okay, Aaqib?
No, not for me.
And Colin?
Not a chance in hell.
Oh, full house. Bingo. Well, there we go.
That's also Chris Kawomya.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. Other than brisket one, yeah. Well, we shall be back in about 20 minutes. I think Mr. Gimli should be back. I think I'm right in saying.
Yeah, him and Kate are back.
Him and Kate are back. Superb. Right, so we'll be back with Gimli at 5 o'clock. Sorry, not 6 o'clock. We will speak to you all then. For all the 149 of you listening, that you've obviously got nothing better to do with your lives. Thank you very, very much. We do appreciate it. And we'll speak to you where we'll rinse and repeat what we've just said in another hour's time. So
And don't forget, 6 o'clock, it's Raj versus Geoff, and with a little bit of Welsh justice chucked in. So that is going to be a slobber knocker, because I think Kris is going to get an earful from them lot too.
Oh, I'll give as good as I get. Don't you worry about that.
It's going to be mental.
Right, well, we'll speak to you all. Thank you to the guys for coming on. Thank you to Colin, Josh, and Aaqib. Thank you to John. Thank you to Danny, and we'll speak to you in a bit.
See you later.
Ciao.
See you later.
Just put your finger up.
What do you want me to do when we go live?
Put your finger up. That's what I did with the game earlier.
Put your finger in your mouth in a sexy way.
Oh God, please don't.
Like that.
Oh
Just do the job. It's okay.
Oh my god.
Does that mean we're live, or are you just
we were
trying
live
to
about a minute ago.
So we are live. You're not
Yeah.
just trying to seduce me.
Yeah, well, you know. You're not having your underpants back. Get on with it.
That's breaking news. Danny fancies Gimli. I don't think we're going to get anything over the line, though. Hey, Danny. not unless we're on a hill. Right. So hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland Transfer Deadline Day special, part 6. Is it 6?
Certainly is. Look at you with your digits.
Yeah, I can on one hand. I will introduce my guest now. First up, we have Charlie. Hello, Charlie.
Yeah, you're right, mate.
Not too bad at all, thank you. Next up, we have, and you might know him from Twitter, it's Jimmy Slate. Hello, Jimmy.
Hey, Jim.
Hello, how are you?
Not bad, bud. You?
Oh, pissed off.
Yeah.
And next up, we have Nate. Hello, Nate.
What's going on, guys? How are we doing?
I think, wow, time ticks on. Tick-tock, that's all I'll say. And, of course, we have Danny and Kris with us. They are the consistent of this show today, so hello to them too.
Oh, I'm not consistent. I missed the first two. Kris is here for no matter what the weather.
Because I've got nothing better to do.
And plus, Danny, because you couldn't get out of bed before midday.
I couldn't, no.
So that's quite bad on you, really. Anyway, we'll kick this off then. We've got, 42 minutes left. It really doesn't look like anything's going to happen. We didn't do these today because we thought that anything was going to happen. We've done them because we've got to speak to some truly wonderful people today.
Are you still plugged in?
We've got...
You're buzzing.
Oh yeah, sorry. And we've got the opinion of some really nice people as well, and a lot of them we will have them back at some point.
Which is why you changed it from 3 pods to 6 pods, so we could just get a load of people on and have a chat.
Exactly, and what a marvellous time I've had today. The happiness has been untold. So we'll try and gauge some reaction then from the window. Charlie, what do you make of the way Arsenal have conducted themselves in this transfer window? A lot of people are angry. Are they right to be angry?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, we've needed a keeper. We've needed a centre back. We've needed a midfielder and a forward. Now, why have we only signed one player who is a keeper? And we are the only team in Europe out of I think it is France, Germany, Italy, Spain, England, etc. Why are we the only club with no outfield players this summer? It's a joke. It's an absolute joke.
It doesn't make an awful lot of sense. Of course, we've seen the stats and the statistics rolling about all day. Arsenal.
Stats and statistics.
Statistics, yes, I did.
They're the same fucking thing, aren't they?
They're different.
Look at your cat. Your cat's looking at you and going, "What a fucking mong, fucking amateur." Show us the cat.
There's the cats there.
See,
they're all
Have you got any stats or statistics on the cats?
No, not really.
Oh, shut up now. Go
Anyway, so we'll go over to Jimmy now. What's your take on the window so far?
Well, I think Czech was a massive coup, and the fact we got him in such early doors was obviously it gave us the feeling that we were going to be really efficient in our business. And he was a great bit of business, Czech. I mean, he showed that against Liverpool. Again, he's been solid since his fuck up at West Ham. But you know, I don't agree with Charlie so much. We needed a centre half, a midfielder, and a striker. Someone made a point saying if Giroud had come out of blocks and had a really good start to the season, would we all still need a striker so much? I still think yes, but you know, we're a striker short of winning the league. So, and we're just destined to compete the top four again, which obviously annoys 99.7% of the Arsenal fans. So.
Yeah, of course. And we're going to go over to Nate now. Nate, over there in Australia, what have you made of Arsenal's transfer window so far?
Look, it's been a little interesting so far. Obviously, with the Czech signing, it was good. It was good to get the player of Czech's calibre. I think he's a big improvement to the squad in terms of other positions. Look, it's hard to say. I guess could we have bought players that would have improved our squad in positions that we actually needed? Have players moved that could have improved our squad in positions that we actually needed? That's a question that you have to ask.
That's a very good point.
I think, we look at it and we say, oh, De Bruyne, he went, could he have improved our squad? Possibly, but is he better than Ozil? Do you bring him in to replace Ozil? Like, it doesn't make sense. You need to buy players that are going to better positions that we're kind of lacking in. So obviously you strike, your defensive midfielder, they're the two that everyone's been talking about, and I agree with it. But as I said, has anyone actually moved that can improve those two areas for Arsenal? That's what needs to be asked.
And I think they have. I think that's the burning topic, and I think players have moved this summer that would strengthen Arsenal. I've said on many other podcasts, I don't understand why, when given such a massive length of time, he can't, find these players and do deals for them. As I've already said, I know transfers aren't easy. I know it's not cut and dried like probably many people think, but to actually, we all joke that we would have been in this situation, but not at one point during our transfer window did I think we'd be sat here in this situation. And I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong.
I get it. But what I'm trying to suggest is, in terms of players that have actually moved in positions that we really need to strengthen, not so much in positions that we'd like to strengthen, but in players that we really need, positions we'd really need to strengthen. So I'm talking about obviously your striker and your defensive mid. What I want to know is, I want to know a player that we can say is better than Giroud at the moment that moved on in the window. We've got shouts for Jackson. Look, you were going to say Balotelli then? No, I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go as far as saying Mario Mandzukic. It wouldn't work. It's just not the kind of player that would fit at Arsenal. I can't see it.
But that's all right. You say it wouldn't work. If you don't buy these players, you never know. If it doesn't work, then you ship him on next summer, and you never know. You might make some money out of him. The money,
I guess
if it's sat in the bank, it's doing fuck all. It's not working to Arsenal's advantage. That money sat in the bank is actually losing money. So,
I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you 100% that we obviously need to strengthen in certain positions. Look, it's a long season, a very long season. We play the big sides how many times? We just need to win. We just need to make sure we're winning the games against small teams. That seems to be an issue. Games that we should be winning, we're not. And that's what cost you the title. Look, you can afford to drop a game or two against the big sides.
But why though? But why with those games aren't we winning them?
That's a good question. It's a good question. We have the quality. There's no doubt. We have quality in our team that can beat these sides. But there's something else that's not quite right. That's not allowing us to beat these teams. As I said, you can afford to lose a game or two against the top four sides. It's natural. If you can get points against every other side in the league, right, and get a majority of wins, right, most likely the points are going to be on your side. Do you know what I'm saying? Look, why we're not winning these games, like against West Ham, I don't know. Why didn't we get a point 3 points against Liverpool? Another question could be asked there. There's something else wrong. I think it's a mentality thing. I honestly think it's a mentality thing.
I don't. Mentality and things like that stem from sort of, back to our existing squad, and one or two players I don't think would necessarily. We had this conversation, Gim and Dan, when we did our pod 2 weeks ago about club mentality and things like that, and it's not. It was about when we had a chat about captains, and we sat around talking for 10 minutes as to who we think the club captain could be, and none of us could put our finger on it, and that's a mentality issue that's derived from the individual player. That can't be instilled into you in a manager. Everyone's going to point at Wenger for today's problems. Should this window close, which is 99% likely that we do close it out with no incoming player, and they're going to say it's all him. But the squad have still got a duty to try and, like Nate said, to try and do a job. And I agree with you, Nate, actually, to an extent. I don't think a forward player has moved in the number 9 position this window that Arsenal should have bought that's been available. I thought about Zeko for a second, and then I kind of thought, is he that much different to Giroud? He's maybe a slightly more competent finisher. But he's not. But, was there an argument for us to look at Pedro? He still would have been square peg round hole, because he's no better than Sanchez. If Ox has shown a lot of promise pre-season to play on the other side, we needed an out-and-out centre forward. I still very much believe that we've really knocked on the door of the PSGs and Real Madrids this summer, and they've both turned around and said, "Go fuck yourself," because there's no one for them to buy in replace. So what do you do?
Well, that's exactly right.
No, go on, Nate.
Yeah, sorry, mate. Look, as I said, they're in a different league, but they still have to compete. And why would they have to sell their best players when it's not needed? Why? Why would they sell a Benzema, when he's going to obviously play? Why? Well, for what reason? They're not bad for money. They obviously want to compete just as much as we do, for the Champions League, for the La Liga. Same thing goes for, the Bundesliga, Bayern Munich. Why would they sell Lewandowski? Why? There's no reason for them to do it. They're not bad for money. They want the player. Why would they sell? It's just as simple as that. We are looking for a world-class striker. There's very minimal. There's hardly any out there.
There's probably 3 or 4 on the market that actually can do the job that we need a player to do. The 3 that Nate's mentioned, and Aguero, possibly. And other than that, Ronaldo and Messi aren't obtainable by a team of our size. Aguero is probably out of our remit anyway. And Suarez, evidently Liverpool proved that they could get 70 million for him. So we were never going to get Suarez really when we got fucking close to getting him. So if anything, Barca owe us a favour for getting the guy like jittery feet, because they've just gotten snapped in the year after. But Nate's right, we're operating with 4 potential players. We've probably offered 50 million for 2/3 of them, and everyone's turned around and come back and said, no, you're all right, thanks. Because look, and we can't even go back in for 2 of them next year, because Benzema and Cavani will be 30 next summer, and then who's available? Unless someone comes out of the woodwork this year. This is the point. Manchester United have just paid £37 million plus a potential another £20 million, so a deal valuing at £57 million, which would smash Arsenal's transfer record by £15 million for a guy that probably amongst the 6 of us we haven't seen play more than a handful of times. That tells you how fucked this transfer market is. I don't want to defend Wenger because I think he should have brought someone in, but everyone should take that into context before they go set his ass on fire.
I agree with you, 100%.
No, I think that's a very, very good point. Players can't move if clubs don't want to sell them, and I think we've got to remember that. But I don't believe that this summer was a case of maybe strengthening the squad in a first team basis. I think that there were places in the squad that we are potentially weak. And the other thing that I struggle to get my head around is, if we are weak in certain places, why has he let all these youngsters go off on loan?
I agree with that, Gim. I do agree with that. That's a very good point. I would say that Aaqib should probably be in Arsenal's 18 for the Stoke game. they should not have let Aaqib go. I thought he had a really good pre-season. He's a little bit raw, but he should be with that group of players. But like the same token, right? Tell me if I'm mad. Like, is it not the equivalent of someone offering us 35 million for Aaqib? What United have just done? He's probably had as much exposure to like senior professional football as what this Martial has. He's an England under 21. You know, and he's probably played 40 games amongst other loan clubs. I know he's played 50 games for Monaco in League One or whatever. But it's not, Chris, it's not a million miles different, is it?
It's probably the best way to compare it is what we did for Nicholas Anelka. That's the sort of price range that they should have been paying for Martial. He's at the same level of development. You know, he's got bags of ability and he's a raw talent.
We paid £500 for Anelka.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the first year of his development, i.e., when he'd been with us, that first season he had when he replaced Ian Wright, basically.
Yeah. He went to Madrid for 19.5 million, didn't he?
No, 22.5.
22. So before that season that we sold him, I mean, that was silly money. Let's be honest. That's the reason we sold him.
Paid for our training ground.
When he first came into the side and he scored that goal against Man United, if you remember, when he got the rebound and fired it across Schmeichel, I think it was at the time. But that season when he just started to break through. That's probably where Martial's level is. I don't even, maybe not even there, but he's certainly not. It would be the equivalent of us selling a Joel Campbell, I would say, is probably the closest, and that's the sort of money that they're paying for these players.
Got a question from Twitter from Marcus O Unpronounceable, who is at Gunner. Gunneroo says, Danny, will you ask your guests on the pod when is it enough, and when do we say that's it with Wenger, and after another frustrating window? So, Kim, do your magic.
I didn't quite catch his second name, Danny.
Oh, Unpronounceable.
Oh, okay. Mr. Unpronounceable.
Oh, Unpronounceable. Get the O bit right. Fuck's sake.
Oh, Unpronounceable. How far do we go down the road with him? That's a very, very good question.
Well done, Marcus.
Personally, it's my belief.
How do you pronounce Marcas?
Marcus.
Maybe he's.
I sit here at the moment and I can't see him doing any business in January because he doesn't like the January transfer window to start with, and he's always maintained since day one it's hard to sign players in January. So I don't think the problems that we're talking about now will still be the same problems that we're talking about in January, which will be the same problems we're probably talking about on the podcast come September. If it goes to next summer, and we are like we are, I think we should break ties with him. That's my personal opinion, because you can't have someone that isn't willing to sign players or make excuses. I'm sick of the excuses. Look at our ticket prices. They're the most expensive in Europe. I know we've signed some great players, but why are you winding the fans up in the way that you are? I think Sim put it awesomely, that if he fails to sign players this window, give the fans their 3% back. Simple. That's what I would do.
It's not like that though. You can't just like you can't go to McDonald's and say that Big Mac was slightly shitter than the one I had 6 months ago. Yeah. I would like 20 pence back because
I would.
I like it.
Yeah, you would.
Danny would.
But it's like
you.
It's the equivalent thing. You can't give him because you kind of make it sound like he's sat there thinking, no, everyone's wrong. I'm not going to go and try and sign any players. I'm not looking at anyone. Like he is genuinely. Like Nate and I tried to raise the point. I think he's genuinely tried to find a player that can strengthen his squad. It's not his squad. But Wenger wouldn't go. I don't think Wenger would go out anymore and spend £5 to £15 million on a player that would sort of come into his 18 and maybe do a job. He's gone out and he's tried to find out if he can find someone that will replace someone in his starting 11.
But he didn't. He shouldn't have done that. He had to. An absolute minimum had to be that he had to buy cover for Coquelin, and you can't argue that there was no one available. You know, fucking Kondogbia could have done that job. Not a problem. Why can't we buy players that push the players that we've already got?
He wouldn't have come in if he was second choice.
No way.
Norwich Schneiderlin. I mean, okay,
Ask
yeah.
Charlie what he thinks as well, because he's gone a bit quiet. And then ask Nate, because I think, are you still awake, Nate? It was about 2 o'clock in the morning there.
Yeah, I'm all good. I'm
Charlie,
going well.
Hello.
What do you think about that?
Well, here's a thing, right? With Arsene Wenger, right? With who's out there as a coach, would you replace him with Carlo Ancelotti? He's
Yes,
out there.
definitely.
He's out there. So why not? I just don't understand.
Oh, I don't want Wenger out. That's not what I mean. I mean, if Wenger retired, then I'd say yes. I don't want Wenger fired.
Thing is, though, proof of the pudding is in the tasting, and I'm fucking hungry.
I'm hungry. I think
That's
I've
a
got
fucking
worms.
brilliant podcast analysis.
That's almost a Domism.
Yeah.
I like it.
So, I'm it's all right to say that they've been sat there and they're trying. You don't know that any more than I know that they haven't been. But like I said, proof of the pudding is that we're sat here and we've signed Petr Cech. That's it. I'm sure other clubs, other fans of other clubs look at us as a joke in the transfer window. That's fucking some hurtful shit. It shouldn't be like that. We're Arsenal Football Club. The fans deserve better.
Every team in the league have had at least 5 add-ins. We've had 1.
Yeah, but like Charlie, so Man United, right? They brought 5 players in. I don't think any of them. I don't think any of them would get in our side.
Nor me.
Which ones? Which ones are you
I
talking about?
I would have a shout for Depay.
Depay would potentially have a go, but then the way Ox is playing at the moment, he'd run him pretty close. But Schneiderlin wouldn't replace Coquelin at the moment.
Really?
No, he wouldn't.
No way! Coquelin is world class at the moment. He is in impeccable form. Like,
So you wouldn't drop Santi from the middle of the park and put Schneiderlin there in his place then?
God no.
No, absolutely not. He's like the most gifted 2-footed player in the league, Santi Cazorla.
He is, yes. But why is he
Apart
there?
from when it comes to shooting.
Yeah. Why is he not up with our forward? Why is he back where?
He's playing in the 8 role. That team, Charlie, has to be built around Mesut Ozil. He is the most talented footballer in that club by a country mile. And the team has to be sculpted around him, and quite rightly so. And Sanchez will be given a free rein to run across the front line anywhere he wants to go, because he can finish from any part of the final third of the pitch. And he's trying to accommodate someone to play right side and through the middle around the other 2 of them. Coquelin and Cazorla is not our problem whatsoever. If they stay fit all year, we've got a very, very solid 2 in a 4-2-3-1.
But that's not going to happen. The game that we play.
Don't know that.
No, I do. I can say now. Coquelin will not play every game this season. To think, if you think like that, that's fucking utter delusion, Jimmy.
Yeah. Mate, it's all right if he misses league. It's all right if he misses League Cup, FA Cup rounds 3, 4, and 5. Who cares about that? I mean, I don't want him to play in those games. I want him to be protected in those games. But I can assure you that he will play in 45 games this season, and he will be one of 3 or 4 first names on the pitch. With Koscielny, Sanchez, and Ozil, Coquelin will be the next name on the team sheet.
But he's only going to play those games because there's fucking no one there to back him up.
Also,
and he's top drawer.
Also, though, right, when he's out, who comes in?
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Don't trust Arteta.
But then you have to go out and buy a player that's more than happy to come to the club as backup, and that ain't going to happen unless you're buying a very average player who isn't really going to be good enough to step up.
Arsenal are not at that place now where they have world-class players in all 11 positions, like in 2 of them in each position. We've got 2 good goalkeepers, got 2 really good left backs, a couple of options at right back. We've got 3 pretty good centre halves. We've got about 6 good centre midfielders. I mean, look, Ramsey can come in there. If Arsenal need to chase a game, Coquelin will come off the pitch and Ramsey will slot in and play a deeper role. Or when Wilshire's back after the international break, he'll slot into a deep playmaker role as well. They'll rotate with Ramsey and Wilshere in that position, and Cazorla will play around them and just sort of tick boxes and move the ball left and right. He's so 2-footed, he can move the ball anywhere. And then the front 3 will... honestly, we're wasting our time if we talk about our midfield. Our midfield is very much in a good position to win this Premier League title. It's our front line which is a bit of an issue.
If I cut in, do you mind if I cut in here?
No, go for it.
I just wanted to so pretty much, look, I've got to say this: if we fail to meet the expectation of some of our players, like your Ozil, like your Alexis Sanchez, these are players that just aren't going to save the club. It's as simple as that. It's the same with Aaron Ramsey. These are players, if we cannot meet the expectations they want to, meet in terms of winning, Premier League title, Champions League title, all that kind of stuff. If we cannot meet that expectation over the next season or two, these players are going to move on. It's as simple as that. So, look, this is our time. It really is. This is our time. And we have somewhat failed in the transfer window. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I agree.
How good do Chelsea look when Matic isn't playing? Who do they bring in? I'll tell you, John Obi Mikel. Would he get into our squad even? No.
No, so the problem I see with our team at the moment is last season Santi scored one goal that wasn't a penalty all season.
That's not his job.
No, but you can't have your two central midfielders scoring one goal between them for an entire season because Frankie is never going to score a goal. That's not his job. Santi is going to get maybe one or two a season. So from your central midfield pairing, we got more goals from Vieira and Petit than we did with that.
But the difference is, Danny, we play a 4-2-3-1. So the two that sit in front, one is an out-and-out defensive midfielder, that's Coquelin, and one is a deep line playmaker. Playmakers don't often score goals.
But then you had Ozil as well. Ozil doesn't score goals.
No, that's what I'm saying. If we're going to criticise anyone, we need more goals for the three in front of the two, not the two behind them.
I'm still a bit of a striker problem, because it should be down to him to get the goals.
Yeah, which is what Ashley said, wasn't it?
Yeah.
As an example, you should compare them to Fernando and Fernandinho at City. They both sit in the pocket. It's the three in front. But Ozil's come out this year and said he wants to score more goals. But what we're not highlighting though is he's made in his Madrid career, where everyone perceived he was the best 10 in the world, he created 196 chances. I've read a stat on. Since he's been at Arsenal and he's had a long injury, he's made 175 chances. But 90 of them were converted at Madrid, and only 33 of them have been converted at Arsenal. So you can't. If he creates an average of 5 or 6 chances a game for Arsenal, like he's doing his job as far as I'm concerned. Sitting in that, we need to put him away. You need more goals from Oxlade-Chamberlain. You need more goals from Walcott, and you need more goals from Giroud. That's the problem in regards to
Jimmy, I'll put it out there to you as well. I've noticed when I do watch the game from time to I watch every game actually, I should say. It looks like we've got too many creators and not enough outlets.
Yeah.
I notice that it always gets cramped up, and we're finding all these passes, we're creating chances, but we've got no outlet. So we're relying on Giroud to be able to score all the goals for us, and we're relying on our midfield to be able to get goals for us too. But we've got all these players that are creative players, and then we don't have enough outlets. And then in the game against Newcastle, we had all these outlet players and not enough creative players.
Well, Ozil was injured. Mate, how much did we miss Ozil against Newcastle? Do you know what I mean?
We missed him a bucket load. We had all this pace through the team. We started with the front three of, obviously, Walcott up front, Ox to the right, and it was Alexis to the left. So we had the outlet then, but then we didn't have the creativity. So we didn't create as many chances as we should. We did a few, and we didn't finish, but not as much as we should. So that's why I go back to the point. That's why I go back to the point. We've created the most chances in the Premier League, right? The most chances in the 4 games so far that we've played, and yet we've only finished one goal. Because really, the 2 own goals, they don't count. They're not goals. They're own goals. They're for the opposition. 1 goal out of everyone. That's poor. That's piss poor. Because it's simply due to the fact that we just don't have enough outlets. We've got all these creative players, but not enough people to actually sit there and score the goals.
I think the frustrating thing for me was that Ozil was probably begging Wenger to play around pace, and the one game he puts a packet load of pace on the pitch, he's injured for it.
I agree.
I think if you played that front three in front of Ozil, we'd have a field day because he wants people that run channels. He's had it around him at Madrid his whole career, and he gets it at Germany. People running channels, and he just slots stuff into gaps all over the place. So if they can play Oxlade-Chamberlain, Theo, and Alexis against Stoke and put Mesut back in the pocket, then I think that's a good. I think the biggest point I want to make is the problem we've got that you just mentioned, Nate, sort of circulates for me around the fact that Wenger's trying to accommodate Ramsey and Cazorla in the same team at the moment, and the biggest decision he'll have to make this year, transfers or not, is he has to go to those two and say, you're fighting for the same position. It's like the Gerrard...
Doesn't work. It doesn't work. Ramsey out wide, he's too slow.
Well, no, with Charlie, but don't you notice how much he gets dragged centrally? So we've never got an out. So Nate, we've never got an outlet right. So the middle of the park gets congested. Then Ozil, in his little pockets of spaces, has got no room to sort of quarterback the game. So
and another thing. Sorry for cutting you off. Giroud is the kind of player that comes out. He doesn't go behind. He doesn't get behind the defense. He comes out and he joins the midfield.
Yeah.
He practically joins the midfield and becomes another. Well, pretty much. And what that does is, Ozil's got the ball. He's looking for a path to get behind. Right? He had Benzema, Ronaldo, all these type of players at Real Madrid that get behind the defense. Now he's got Giroud coming towards him, and he's thinking to himself, "Oh shit, where am I going to pass to?" Because there's no one else. Because Giroud's coming forward and accepting the ball. He's not getting behind the defense. So that's another reason why it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Right then, we're going to have to start wrapping this up then, because we're due on at 6 o'clock, and we've got an all-star lineup. We've got Geoff, Kate, Raj, all the ABW usuals are going to be there as well. So it's really one to listen out for. And
Davies is not in the
Gimli, just a quick one. I just want to say something before I do go anyway. It's just about pretty much the upcoming games and all that kind of stuff. So non-transfer related. But pretty much I just want to say that let's get behind the team. Let's get behind the team. Let's support them.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm talking about everyone. Whether you're divided, whether you want Wenger out, whether you want him in, whether you're on the fence, you don't care. Get behind the team, sing loud, sing proud, because the team needs it.
Bang on.
Yes, indeed.
I won't. Do you know what?
Isn't going to help.
I'm gonna break the. I'm gonna break the mold. I'm not going to ask people who they want and if we're going to sign anybody, because
there's only 14 minutes.
13 minutes left. I think is a bit pointless. I hope you agree with me.
We could ask them. What do they think was the best transfer move this window?
Yes, we'll do that then. Who has been the best player or the best piece of business, should I say, this transfer window?
Ooh, good question.
Nate, I'm going to start with you.
I would have to say it would have to be Vidal to Bayern.
Okay.
For that price, for 28 mil, that's quite cheap in this window, really, if you think about it.
Ridiculously cheap. Jimmy?
Well, I think it's going to be overshadowed by today, but I still think Cech at 10 million was probably the best piece of business in the market by a mile.
Okay. Charlie?
Yeah, I'd say also Peter Cech. He is absolutely world class as well.
And I'll ask you and Danny as well, Kris. Kris, you go first.
Just to be different, Dimitri Payet to West Ham for 10 million.
Oh, that's a great piece of business.
Good shout.
Danny?
I think I'm going to have to go with De Bruyne just for Wolfsburg's sake. They're probably rolling in the aisles, covered in sausages, laughing their fucking arse off. 18 million they paid for him. 18.
I bet you the people in... Sorry, I bet you the people in Monaco are going, oh, fuck this, let's go get down the casino. I can't believe them silly cunts paid that much.
Did Chelsea have a sell-on fee clause in that De Bruyne thing?
I don't think they did they?
No, I don't think so.
For Draxler, that's an opportunity missed. But like Drew said, Germans don't want to come over here. Don't say
very true.
That. This is the 21st century. Stop it.
Okay. So that was a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast transfer deadline day special part 6. We'll be back in roughly 10-15 minutes for the inevitable meltdown. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.
Ciao. Take care.
Bye-bye. We're live!
Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland transfer deadline day part special 7. Is it? Fuck that one up. So it's done and dusted, and the worst that we feared has become an eventuality. I'm pleased to say that I'm joined by Goonerholic. I'm joined by Geoff Arsenal.
Good evening.
I'm joined by Kate.
Good evening.
I'm joined by Mark King.
Watch your cock.
And finally, the Rev himself, Mr. Raj Patel. I also have Kris and Danny with me, the constant of today's shows.
Can I go home yet?
No. You can't. We've still got another half an hour, 45 minutes, and then we can go off and get back to our lives and cry. So then, Geoff, I guess the person that everybody wants to talk to or find out what's gone on is you. So, mate, there's going to be a lot of angry people out there tonight.
There is already. I've been battling away on Twitter for the last, I don't know, an hour or so, and I bet you're smoking well anyway. I think I need some of that. And the mentions have been. I can't get under 200 mentions. You know, as soon as I answer one, we go on to the next one, and I've still got 200 and 200 and odd. I mean, it's, you know, it unfortunately, it is what it is. I'm as disappointed as the next man. Trust me. But and there is a big but. It's if you look across Europe and the players that have been purchased and sold, there's not that many big names that's been purchased, and the ones that, you know, the couple that have maybe got to City and Chelsea, and like I said before, you know, if we're going to get into a bidding war with teams like Chelsea, City, and Man United, you're going to put yourself in grave danger. You know, like I said, I'm as disappointed as the next man. But at the end of the day, there has got to be some perspective, and I have absolutely no doubt that Wenger and the staff, they was trying to purchase the right players. But you know, he won't compromise. He's told us that many times before. And if he thinks that he's not getting the right deal for the right player, he won't do it. And, you know, that's where we're at. It's as simple as that. And at the same time, I don't see why there's all this absolute meltdown on Twitter that we see, because we've got a very, very good squad anyway. We're in the calendar year of 2015, we accumulated the most points. We have strengthened with regards to a goalkeeper with Petr Cech. No, let's hope we can continue. Although we've had a bit of a bad start to the season, when I say a bad start, it's not been the most satisfactory start. But at the same time, other teams around us have dropped points as well. There's a long way to go, and you know, hopefully we can push on with the squad we've got and have a right go at trying to wrestle the Championship away from Chelsea.
So what would you say to the people, Geoff, that are asking why there couldn't be a replacement for Mikel Arteta, or was there anybody in this market that was better than Mikel Arteta that could have not only challenged Coquelin for his spot, but been decent backup? Because from what I've seen so far, I think that's probably people's main gripe, that if anything happens to Coquelin, then we're screwed.
Well, you got to remember that Arsene Wenger's the manager. He watches the players in training every single day. If he thinks that there isn't players out there that are available, I mean, we can all say, oh, well, yeah, we should buy this one and we should buy that one. You know, maybe those players, one, are not available. Two, they don't want to join Arsenal. Three, the clubs might not want to sell those type of players. You know, we've got to look at everything. You know, like I said, I want to sign all the best players as well. And to people that think that Arsene Wenger doesn't want to sign the best players, it's just unbelievable. You'd think he's sitting home in the afternoon with a packet of Gulwar and half a dozen croissants on his lap. You know, that's not what's going on. You know, no doubt he's been out there. He's been trying to get the right players, and sometimes you just can't get them. Look at it all across the market. I'm sure Man United didn't want to pay at nearly 80 million euros for a 19-year-old who's played like 50 games in League One. You know, there's a shortage of players. I understand your sentiment with regard to our team, Marteta and Flamini, but let's not, you know, we think they're maybe going to be first choice if Coquelin does break down or he gets banned or whatever. I understand that, but let's not forget we have got other players that can fill in that area.
So, Mark, we'll go to you next. Of course, we talked this morning. I think there was the overall feeling that there did need to be business done today. The fans were crying out for it. What's first of all, your thoughts on what Geoff's had to say just then, and again, have we missed a massive, massive trick in not signing anybody? The one major stat I can come out with is that we are in the top 5 leagues of Europe. We are the only team not to sign an outfield player. That's not good enough, is it?
Well, so it's a bit of a stunning stat, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, I mean, it says a lot, doesn't it? When you look at when Sky kept showing their league table of players bought, and we were rooted to the bottom with 1, you know, and the nearest were like 5. I mean, Geoff, yeah, God bless Geoff. He's ticked off about 27 of my excuses that I was waiting for, so he's done quite well in that little stint now. Quite impressed. In terms of one of the things I wanted to take him up on was what he said right at the start. Was big names. I was going to ask Geoff, did you enjoy watching Gabriel the other day and against Liverpool second half? How did you think he did? Geoff?
He's hung himself.
he's given up already.
Let me ask Kris. Kris. Well, Geoff, you back?
Well, you know what? I muted and unmuted, and it wouldn't come off. So, okay. But I did hear you. You with me now? Yeah.
Yeah. So, how did you feel Gabriel looked against Newcastle? Not tested a great deal, I know, and also second half against Liverpool.
Yeah, he did okay. Of course he did. That's a leading question, obviously.
Yeah, of course it is. Is Gabriel a big name?
Well, no, I think it's about 7 letters, something like that now, if I'm guessing.
Did we find him in a more difficult transfer window than the summer window?
Did we find him in a more difficult transfer window?
Than a summer window?
That's open for negotiation, isn't it? I don't know. It depends how you see it.
It's hard to buy players in January.
Yeah, I'll run with it. Okay, yeah, carry on. I'll run with that.
How much did we pay for him?
I don't know. What, 12 million was it? 14 million?
About 12 million, yeah.
Yeah.
Why can we not find a DM in that sort of like range? Why? I'm not asking for Arsenal go and spend silly money, and it's one of the things I see from people who are quite happy to try and find excuses and reasons why we shouldn't be upset. I'm not asking Arsenal, you know, they don't have to go and spend huge money on players. Sometimes it doesn't always, like, you know, guarantee you success. We've seen that plenty of times, not so much at Arsenal thankfully, but we've seen it at other clubs. So I'm not saying it's got to be a big signing, but surely if someone is telling me that we couldn't find a DM, you know, regardless of I accept a lot of what you've said about the world-class centre forwards, but see, if you're telling me we can't find a DM in the entire world football that would come and play for Arsenal, either as an upgrade to Coquelin or to provide some cover and competition for him better than Arteta and Flamini, I just can't see that, mate. And this is, you know, we're a huge club. You know we should be bigger than we are at the moment, mainly because, you know, the handcuffs on because of the stadium and that. We should be a bigger club, and we're supposed to be, you know, you kept telling us we'll be competing, we'll be progressing. If we need to do that, this was not a transfer window that shows that in any way, shape or form. This transfer window was a disgrace.
Well, you know, first of all, you've got to realise that there's much more professional people out there that are in this field, scouts and coaches and managers and all sorts, that are much more educated and up to speed than me or you, Mark. And if those people that are paid fantastic amounts of money, no doubt, can't seem to find, and I'm not talking about just Arsenal, I'm talking about across world football, all right? If those people can't seem to put their hands on them, there was only 1 or 2 that went, really. You're talking about Schneiderlin, who, to be honest with you, is a toss-up whether he's an upgrade on Coquelin, right? And you had maybe Vidal. There's another one that's a bit of a toss-up. You know, of course, you know, maybe he's a little bit better than Coquelin, but what you got to remember is, right, you still don't know for sure, and you don't know whether Vidal wanted to come to us. You don't know what the money was going to be involved. You know, do you pay? How much did he go in the end for? 30 million, was it?
28, I think.
28 million pound. You know, is it worth paying 28 million pound for an Arturo Vidal when you've got Francis Coquelin, who just come into the side. In my opinion, I think he's been different class for us. I think he's been really, really good. Right. So what do you do then? You know, and it will sit. Let's have a look at the conversation. Yes, Arturo, we want to buy you. We don't mind paying you 25 or 30 million pound, whatever it costs. He'll say, okay, Mr. Wenger, lovely. Do you think, well, am I going to be in the first team every single week? Wenger is going to say to him, I'm sorry, mate, this is not what we do. We don't play like that. I can't guarantee you a first team place. He did this with Gustavo 2 years ago. We was heavy on Gustavo. Gustavo had the conversation with Wenger, and Wenger couldn't assure him of a first team place. He went off and signed for Wolfsburg or one of them other teams. It's not guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. And if Wenger can't guarantee you a first team place and some other team can, you've got your options. What do you do?
So we haven't failed in the transfer window, Geoff?
No, I'm not saying we haven't failed in the transfer window. What I'm saying to you is that, of course, we would like to add and strengthen the squad.
But we're not, are we?
No. But do you think that Wenger hasn't tried? What do you think?
I've got no idea, Geoff.
What is the solution then? Well,
Geoff,
what do you think it is then?
At the beginning of the summer, every single member of this podcast, as well as a million Arsenal fans, all the media, pretty much identified the areas that we needed to strengthen to move on to the next level. And yet the one man who is in charge of making that final decision hasn't done any of that stuff. And it doesn't wash with me that players aren't available. As Mark said, you know, no one's expecting £100 million player to come to us, so we've got our limitations. We've only got 60 million to spend at most years, but we're not giving ourselves a chance to be able to compete for the Premier League title.
Okay, so what do you think is the situation then? Tell me, pinpoint the problem to me.
Well, it's the manager, as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
I don't think he's competent enough. I don't think he's able now to actually take this team forward because he cannot make these decisions. I've got no idea what the real truth is, and nor do you, Geoff. But
no, of course not.
But seemingly every year, it's happening every year. Yeah, we've bought a couple of worldies, and to be quite honest, I actually believe that we thought we would buy a worldie every year, but we're not, are we?
So he's competent in buying 2 worldies, but he's not competent at buying the 3rd worldie.
No,
you know, you're an idiot or you're not.
I'm asking a simple question. I mean, it's a simple question that Arsenal fans are asking for. It's
a simple question I'm asking as well, Raj.
We're not doing it. It's every year, Geoff. It's every year. We identify areas, and it's not happening. There has to be a reason.
Okay. Tell me the players that you'd like him to purchase for you with regards to this season right now that have moved.
Absolutely no idea. I don't get paid £8 million a year.
But that's what. But then we all know a man, don't we? That's what I'm saying. Of course, it's his job, Raj, right?
So he's not doing
everyone else comments, right, on what he should be doing, right, and I make it sound as if he doesn't try. I mean, anybody must be absolutely stone raving bonkers to think he sits at home and he doesn't want to improve Arsenal Football Club.
Why isn't he?
Well, I don't know. But I would suggest there is a reason for that.
Well,
I don't know. We don't know.
What is the reason? Give me the reason. Give me even if you're speculating.
In my opinion,
yes, in your opinion, go on.
In my opinion, he's looked at the players that are available, and they don't improve our team, or 2, they're too expensive for what he believes they're worth.
Why can't we be more aggressive in the transfer market? Do we need to go for players that are available? Why can't we just?
How do you know he's not being aggressive? I mean, he spent £42 million on Mesut Ozil. How aggressive do you want him to be, Raj?
He was available, but he was available, wasn't he, Geoff?
It doesn't matter. Was he available?
Well, I assume so.
Well, we bought him for £42 million. That's aggressive.
I'm talking about turning players' heads, doing it slightly less classy, like we've been doing for the last few years. Do it aggressively, like everyone else does.
He's not tried to do that, Raj.
We've got nothing, Geoff. I've got evidence. My table is empty. There's nothing there. We've got the same squad as last year with 1 goalkeeper, and you're telling me that we are going to challenge for the Premier League and the Champions League. That is absolute rubbish. No, I'm not. I'm not. There's nothing there. Yeah, exactly.
I understand what you're saying, Raj. I'm as frustrated as you, buddy. You know, I think I'm the biggest Arsenal fan in the world, like all the rest of us, right? And I get frustrated about it. Don't you think Arsene Wenger's frustrated about it? Do you think he's sitting on the sweet?
There's a part of me which is.
I do. I think he is.
What is? I mean,
I think
Go
the
on,
only
Dave, go on,
part you
Dave,
haven't
on.
covered so far, sorry, I'm going to butt in. I think
go
the
on.
only part you've missed so far is I think he said last week himself he was still active and looking for people. I think he has a list there of players that he was prepared to spend a sum of money on. I have no doubt there was at least one very large potential signing on there, and that large potential signing, for whatever reason, the door was shut on him. He then hasn't gone back, hasn't had time perhaps to go back and look at lesser options. It's another way of looking at it. I agree with Geoff in as much as you seem to think that we're not disappointed that we haven't acted, because we made the move to the stadium to get the income that would enable us to compete. And although the goalposts have been moved a bit and we still won't be able to compete with the likes of City and Chelsea, there is a slug of money there that could have been spent over this summer that hasn't. That's going to frustrate everybody. The only thing I would say, though, is there is still January to come, which is not going to be such a difficult January this year, because if there are players out there who are not playing for their clubs ahead of the European Championship, they'll be looking to get out somewhere where they can play. That's another way of looking at it.
Can I quote you something from a few days ago, what he said, Arsene Wenger? He said, "It is not a shortage of money. At the moment, it is a handicap to us because we have the resources. There's just a shortage of players." Now, is he lying when he says that? Is he trying to hoodwink us, or do people believe him?
Or maybe players just don't want to come and play for him. That's another option, isn't there? Because a lot, every time we sign a player, all I hear is, yeah, he rang him up and he said yes, I'll come over and play for you, Arsene. But I mean, why isn't he picking up the phone a bit more often and getting these players to come? Maybe the allure of coming to Arsenal isn't that anymore.
Because I'll tell you how I see it, and again, I'm only assuming. It's only in my opinion. I could be totally wrong, but it's difficult to. These players that we're trying to sign, generally, they're going to be from top clubs, and if they're under contract, and the clubs don't want to sell them, it doesn't matter what you do, unless you're a club like Man City or Chelsea. Cliches, I know, but we mustn't disregard it. City and why I say that is City and Chelsea can go in and they can turn a man's head. They can say, right, we'll give you, like Raheem Sterling, we'll give you 200 grand a week. Cause a little bit of trouble. We want you to come here, X, Y, and Z. Right? That maybe that can be done. One, I'm not sure that Arsene Wenger plays that kind of way. Two, we haven't even got the funds to pay that kind of money. Because if we pay one man £200,000, then you're going to have Ozil, you're going to have Sanchez coming in. You're going to have all them, 4 or 5 players banging on the door, and they all want their 200 grand a week. We can't afford it, Raj. It's an absolute fact and reality. It's hard to taste. It's bitter, but I'm afraid it's a reality, mate.
So basically, what you're saying is we're stuffed. We shouldn't even bother about hoping for these kind of purchases.
No.
That we are, for the time being, we're going to stand still while the other teams go off into the distance. And meanwhile, the teams behind us over the next 2 or 3 years are going to get more and more cash for the TV deal and going to start catching up to us. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying. No, of course not. I'm not saying that at all.
So what's the solution then? Because at the moment, I am actually getting rather concerned that we're going to stuff this up over the next 12 months, and it's not going to get any better. And next summer it's going to happen again. We're going to have this same merry-go-round in about a month's time when people start going on about the January window, which will bore me shitless, to be quite honest. And then after January, we'll start going on about the summer, and it goes round and round in circles. Something's got to change.
Well, first of all, I think we've got a team that can compete this year. It's going to be very, very difficult. It's not going to be any more difficult than it was going to be anyway, because we've got the teams that are above us, which are Manchester City and Chelsea, right? Chelsea haven't had the greatest of starts, right? I personally think it's harder to win a Premier League the second time, to go back-to-back. So they're going to have a little bit of a lull, in my personal opinion. They're still going to come strong. No, they've got too much quality. But Manchester City, they've had a fantastic start. They're going to be difficult to overcome. I think he's been a great Sterling, and he's given them a little bit of a different dimension. We're going to have to overcome that. But we have got a very, very good squad. We've had our squad together now for 3 years. We've added a good goalkeeper. Jury's still out with me on Peter Cech, by the way. I don't know. I mean, we see that first game
He's gone.
Oh, it does sound like he's gone again. We'll wait for him to come back.
West Torres was in. But seeing players on there at one time, you know.
No, you're back, Geoff.
No, he's not. He's gone again.
He's gone again. Okay. Right, we'll kick this on then. I mean, we've heard what Geoff...
We can't...
Great points, Geoff.
I finally melted him with my fury.
Someone's muting him, aren't they? There's someone. I can see he's opened himself up for a lot of abuse. Geoff.
Yeah, I'm here, mate. I'm here.
You cut off there, mate.
Oh, did you? Oh, no, I was here. I was chuntering away as normal.
Are you on your phone, Geoff? Because it's a bit of a wonky signal.
Mate. No, not at all. It's on my normal PC.
Have you told everyone that you're doing this, that you're being grilled mercilessly by everyone?
Yeah.
We should call you Cecil. It's an unfair fight.
Jeff, I've got a question for you. Our wonderful Fife, Andrew PR, who are you, whatever, he tweeted something a little while ago. You might have read it, I don't know, but and it's had about 500 retweets. And he said, it's no longer a case of AKB or WOB. After consistent failures in the transfer window, the board need to decide if Wenger is still able. What are your thoughts on that?
I've got no doubt Wenger is definitely able for the job. My problem is that going forward into the future now that the FFP has been kicked up in the air, my problem is, are we going to be able to compete in 2 and 3 and 4 years' time? Because unless we change a bit of strategy at board level with regards to our self-sustaining facility that we've got going on, until that changes, we are, I'm afraid, going to be dragged into 5th and 6th in the table. You know, because, like you say, Raj, teams are, you know, they're catching up on us a little bit, and other teams will go away from us if we just try and play fair, so to speak.
Geoff, I've got a question for you as well, if you don't mind. I don't know how many people that are in here saw your tweets this week, but you normally not very vocal on the board side of the issue when it comes to Arsene Wenger and having criticisms towards the club. But from reading your tweets, they seem to criticise the fact that maybe the board aren't showing enough ambition. Would you like to elaborate on what you meant with those tweets? Because it's sometimes very difficult to grasp the meaning of something with only 140 characters.
Of course, yeah, but a lot of people did take those tweets in the wrong vein. I wasn't having a go at the board or the club or anything like that. I was having a go. The board haven't failed us. It's FFP that's failed us. You know, we as a club played by the rules. We tried to do the right thing and play fairly. It's quite clear this season that it's been thrown up in the air with Chelsea and City spending what they're spending, and over the last 2 years, it's impossible that they would be complying with FFP if everything was out in open. It's not happening. So, and this is only going to get worse. So, as I just alluded to, I'm afraid unless Stan changes the strategy and he sticks a few quid in, or he's got to move on and give it to someone that will stick a few quid in. Otherwise, we're going to get left behind. And that was my point. I could be wrong. I don't know, but that's only my opinion. I think it's. We've tried our best with the FFP. I think it's now time to move on. We're going to have to join them.
I can remember Q&As with Ivan Gazidis when basically he alluded to the fact that Arsenal would maybe put all of their eggs in one basket, dependent on the FFP, and he even said that, you know, when FP kicks in, it will put us on a par with everybody else. Now that's failed. Is there another? Is there anything else in place? Was there a backup plan to that?
I don't know. All the support and all the people that have working for them, I'm sure somewhere along the line there must be some kind of contingency plan if FFP didn't work. At the end of the day, it's not about what they had or what they haven't had. It's about they need to find a solution to the problem we've got facing us, and that is Chelsea, Manchester City, and Manchester United having investors that are willing to put in money and commercial deals that, quite frankly, dwarf ours. We've got to move with the times. I don't know how they're going to find that solution. That's up to them. But as a club, they've got to find that solution. Otherwise, we're going to be, we're struggling.
So, well, I mean, the thing about it is, we were all sold this dream of FFP moving into the new stadium, being competitive in monetary terms. It seems like it's all kind of died on its arse at the moment. I mean, where do we go from here? I think that's a very good question.
I find that a very pessimistic view, Geoff, if you don't mind me saying. I actually believe that by moving into the stadium already at very advantageous terms, we've put ourselves in a position that a lot of the other Premier League clubs have yet to do. Tottenham have still got to go through that. Liverpool have still got to go through that. We've got the stadium in place. We've got guaranteed income in place. What's going to decide us is how well we use that money that's available to us. And we're not talking small sums of money. We're never going to get into a pissing contest with Chelsea and Manchester City because their bladders are too big. But with the pot of money that's available to us, we're still going to be able to build a squad that can challenge. I'm absolutely sure of that. When you think that we got through, say, 8 of the last 10 years without basically a penny to spend, I think we're in a much better position than the gloomy FFP isn't working side suggests.
I get that. I do get that, and I understand what you're saying, and I hope you're right. But I just fear that our commercial revenue that we take is maybe just over £300 million, and obviously that's maybe growing yearly. I understand that, but we'll put our 70 or 80 million pounds or 100 million pounds into transfers every season or 18 months or something. But they'll put 250 and 300 million pound in. That's where the problem lies.
Geoff, a lot of our supporters are very proud of the fact that they say that we are a classy club, that we've done all the spending of the money in the classiest way possible. We've defied FFP. Now, where do you get to the point where you say, like Gary Neville hinted at, now's the time to go? As we are never going to be able to compete with the likes of Chelsea and Man City. So where does it get to the point we start throwing silly money about? We pay the players what they want to earn every week. We don't have wage caps and go, we can't sign him because he's going to cost us too much a week. When does it get to that point that we turn into one of those clubs? Or do we stay like we are? Because personally, I think if that's the latter, I can't honestly see us ever challenge for the title in the next 10 years.
Well, we are talking about the Premier League and the Champions League. And to compete in the Premier League and the Champions League, we are competing with the likes of Manchester. I haven't got to name them, all the top teams.
Yeah.
Their revenue streams are a lot more than ours, okay? And we're working on a par at the moment. We're 7th or 8th out of all them clubs, and they seem to be getting a little bit further than the Champions League, and they seem to be getting a little bit higher in the Premier League than us. There's no secret. Right, the only way we can do it, I personally think we can't do it on our revenue streams. So, and if we max all our revenue streams out, the only way you're going to get these revenue streams to go up is if you be successful. You need to win. We need to win a Champions League. We win a Champions League and a Premier League, then you'll get bigger hitters coming in, wanting to give you more money, and then you'll get the revenue streams up, and it'll be better. But at the end of the day,
it's a vicious circle, isn't it, Geoff? Because if you don't buy the players to win those trophies, then you don't get the money and the credit, the respect, everything else that comes with it. So surely you've got to eventually dip your hand in your pocket and go, right, that's it. This summer we're going to do a Man United. We're going to spend £250 million on players. Some of them will work, some of them won't. I think you've got to take that risk. You've got to gamble. Football has become a gamble. There's, I think I said earlier, there's £200 million for the team that finishes bottom of the league next year. It's going to be even harder for us next year because we'll have the likes of people like Stoke that can go out and spend stupid money on players. If anything, we've made our job harder by not strengthening this window. That's my opinion.
No, I understand that, but again, I got to revert back to what Arsene Wenger said the other day. I mean, he's an economist. He's got all kinds of, I don't know what he's got accreditations and for whatever for being an economist. Now, he said that Arsenal can't compete with the likes of Manchester City, Chelsea, and Manchester United because they just haven't got the revenue streams. And that's the end of the matter. That's the problem. We need to, unless we can build a team, which we're trying to do at the moment, I'm afraid we're going to have to join these people because the money that we've got is not going to be enough to compete.
No.
So how is not buying anyone except a goalkeeper building a team?
Well, it's not the point of not buying anybody. The money that you have got, you've got to be very careful with it, Mark. Because we haven't got that sugar daddy. We can't buy Wilfred Boney and only play him half a dozen times.
We couldn't be any more careful with it, could we? Hey, let's just leave it in the bank, yeah. While it's losing value, you could buy a player, get 2 good seasons out of him, flog him for £100 million to Real Madrid. No, let's just leave it in the bank, yeah. A goalkeeper is all we could come up with.
Well,
yeah, I mean, I listen to you, Geoff, and I tell you what, mate, we might as well go home because Stan Kroenke is not going to put any money into this club other than what he has paid for them shares. He will not put his hand in his pocket and invest money of his, to buy players. Yes, so if that's the only way we can compete, we are well and truly fucked.
Well, we'll win a cup and stuff like that, but to really compete.
Brilliant.
Yeah, no,
I thought with the Arsenal, I thought we could aim a bit higher than that.
Mark, I'm shooting from a similar level as you. I want to win these trophies, mate. It's not giving me, it's hurting me, right? Having to give this opinion. This is only what I think is going to happen. And I think unless we can compete with these guys, right, we're going to find it hard. It's no secret that the league table generally. Whoever spends the most money is on top, and whoever spends the least is generally on the bottom, and it carries all the way through down. So, unfortunately, but amongst all that, you do need a good manager because you'll get people like, Man United have spent 250 or 300 million over the last 2 years, and that might be. I don't know whether they've made a big improvement.
He's destroying Man United, though. He is destroying Man United.
Well, so. This is what I'm saying to you. You've got to be very careful to who you employ to spend that money as well. And I understand what you're saying, Mark, about the money. Why haven't we spent the money then to compete? Again, I think he's got to be careful with the money we have got at the moment because them purchases they have got to be right. We can't spend £30 million on a Jovetic or a Wilfred Boney or a couple of Chelsea players.
Well, no one's asking us to.
He's gone now.
Is Geoff gone?
Yeah, he's lost his line.
Oh.
I'm so disillusioned. I'll tell you what, Jason got it spot on earlier on. He said, I am frustrated and disillusioned by this whole process these last 3 or 4 months, and I've got to say, he's spot on with that. I've got a bit of anger, which I'll probably vent at ITKs later on tonight. But there's something not right. I just can't believe that we couldn't strengthen areas of our team with a 10, 15, 20 million pound player, and I just don't believe that players weren't available.
The biggest
and
problem.
I understand.
Go on, Holic.
Good. I was just going to say I understand that entirely. I don't think there's any people on either side of the fence who didn't want us to buy players in this window, particularly in defensive midfield, particularly up front. But I have to believe that we were trying to do that, that every effort was made to do that. And I don't know that, but I don't understand the difference between why people take disappointment and then turn it into anger and we turn on each other when we all want the same thing at the end of the day. We've just got a different way of expressing it.
Yeah, and some people are more accepting of it as well. I mean, look, you can look at it 2 ways. If Arsene Wenger wasn't trying his utmost to buy players, then I'd like to know what the reason was. But at least we failed because we didn't try. If we were trying, and all I could hear was people are working night and day to sign players, and this huge scouting network that we've got, if we were trying to buy players and we've come up with nothing bar a goalkeeper who was wanted to leave Chelsea and only wanted to stay in London, if that's the best we could come up with, then I think you've seriously got to question the people who are running our transfer dealings, whether that be Arsene Wenger, who identifies his targets from priority down for each position he may want, or the people that are going out and scouting and can't find players, or the people that are negotiating with the clubs to try and buy them. You know, what's worse?
I think the latter is probably nearer.
Sorry?
I think the latter is probably nearer. I have no doubt there's a list of players. I think the negotiating might be an area where you've got a point. But, for example, if Paris Saint-Germain didn't want to sell Cavani today and we put all our eggs in that basket, which seems a possibility, then, yes, there's a negotiating thing in that we didn't have a backup position. But
I think we'd put all our eggs in a Karim Benzema basket, to be honest, from what you would gather from the internet, regardless of how much bullshit was being thrown around by people with no knowledge of anything. You know,
exactly.
It seemed like
same as the rest of us.
Yeah, it seemed like we were quite focused on a world-class striker, and I can understand that. Who doesn't want a world-class striker? But by my reckoning, there's about 11 world-class strikers, and there are 7 clubs, and none of those 7 clubs are likely to want to sell them, and they're at elite clubs. So why are they going to want to leave and join what's not an elite club at the moment? You know, so we spent all our time doing that. Where was the next level up? Where was someone to come in and take a bit of pressure off Giroud as our only proper centre forward? You know, why are we still now going to be spending time watching Theo trying to prove he's a centre forward, rightly or wrongly? You know, waiting for Welbeck to get fit again, who's been out for nearly 5 months now. You know, and again, when you're talking about eggs in baskets, the worst one was FFP. The club staked everything on that working. They put everything on the fact that all of the other clubs would get reined back. And this was a policy created by UEFA, I don't know whether it's FIFA or UEFA, but created by UEFA, you know, who are run by crooks and who was run scared of the biggest clubs, who were never, ever going to be able to take those biggest clubs to task on what they spend. Never were they going to be able to do that. It was a ridiculous idea from start to finish. And look, lo and behold, oh well, it's died a death. And now Man City go and spunk a load of money, and basically I think City are the team to beat. Chelsea have strengthened. If they can get past the fact that, you know, Terry's on his last legs and they've got no other leaders, then maybe they'll be all right. And I think we're battling for second or third at best.
I'd agree with your view on City and Chelsea. I'd absolutely agree with that. I think I happen to think we've been building a squad over a period of years now that if we were to keep our best side fit, and I know that's a huge if, and that's why we should have bought a couple of players this summer, but we've got 15, 16, 17 players now. If we can keep them fit, I still believe we're in a position to challenge this year. But by not adding to that squad in the summer, we've not put ourselves in the best position to do that. I'll accept it.
How long does it get if you're building a squad over a period of years? And Dom mentioned it on the podcast either last week or the week before. How long does it get before Mesut Ozil is knocking on in years? You know, how long does it take you to build a squad? How many years is Alexis Sanchez going to stay at Arsenal if he's not winning titles? If he's not doing if he's getting knocked out in the last 16 of the Champions League? How long do you expect him to stay at Arsenal? This is a player that is, I'm not going to say far too good for Arsenal, but this is a player that could walk into most teams in the world quite easily. He's not going to accept mediocrity, is he? Raj?
He was available for them last summer and they didn't come in for him.
Who was that?
Alexis.
So, I mean, Kate, you've been very quiet on this whole situation, and we haven't heard from you today on deadline day. What have you made of of everything that's gone down. You've heard the boys chat there. I mean, how do you feel at this moment in time?
Probably like most Arsenal. Well, I say most. A few Arsenal fans are a bit deflated. It's frustrating, but I guess we should be used to it as Arsenal fans now. I was at work this morning, and before I left, I was talking to my boss. He's a Chelsea fan, and he said, "Oh, but you've got Czech, and he'll get you points." Well, yeah, but Czech doesn't make a team, and I just don't think we've got enough strength to cover if there's any injuries. I think I was saying to you last night that look at when Mertz and Kos got injured. We brought Gabriel and Chambers in, and Gabriel was playing really, really well. Well, really well. But Chambers hasn't found his feet, and I don't think there's enough cover to just see us through the season. And I think anyone who thinks that we've got enough players in our team is a little bit deluded.
It's a very good point, and I welcome Geoff back with us. Is there anybody else that wants to jump in on your overall feelings for the day? Is there anything that we've discussed that maybe you want to touch on?
Not from me. It's just black and white because I'm sad.
It's underwhelming, isn't it? And it's a disappointment. But there's nothing. I mean, I think Geoff's right in some ways, and a few other people are right. There's nothing you can do. You can have a piss and whinge now for the next 3 hours, but it ain't going to change anything that's going to happen from tomorrow. We've got a game in 10 days' time against Stoke, and I guess, you know, as football fans, as Arsenal fans, we've got to get behind the team now and hope for the best. But I just, you know, it's just, I find it very depressing that we've got ourselves into this position again. Maybe the team will prove me wrong, and that they will go ahead and put a decent challenge in for the title this year. But you know, that's what we have to do now. I suppose it's just going back to the team, but it is just not the best of places at the moment.
I mean, Holic said earlier about waiting for the January transfer window. Is there anyone here that's confident that we'd even buy in the January transfer window? I mean, he said in the past how difficult it is to do deals in the winter months, or you know, over that time. Is anyone confident that we're going to actually buy the players that we need, or?
Well, I think if I could just say, going back to what Holic said, he said, you know, players that aren't playing will be looking to move to clubs so that they can play in advance of the Euros. I mean, that's fair enough, but then they've got to be the standard of player that is going to walk into the Arsenal first team. Now, they don't grow on trees, so, you know, that's going to have to be someone. So say maybe Benitez goes with a different system and Benzema's not playing at Madrid. Who knows, maybe January might be the time to say to Benzema, well, look, you know, you come and play in our team, and pay the big money for him. But other than that, I think January is always a tough time, and particularly before a tournament, I think it's even harder.
Have you seen that Geoff is back?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, well done.
I welcomed him back, Danny.
Hey?
I welcomed him back.
It's impossible to tell.
Don't shoot me. Don't ever go at me. I'm not Geoff.
It's impossible to talk about January now anyway, because so much can happen. I mean, we could take 2 or 3 injuries. United or Chelsea could take 2 or 3 injuries. That changes your whole philosophy. Equally, we could be top of the league by Christmas and everyone's quiet again. It's really hard to speculate on what's to come. All that we can do is look at the here and now, and like Holic said, the bit I don't really understand about certain sort of sections of the fan base is the split is why the anger at each other when it's really nothing that we can control. We just have to trust that things are being done, and that, you know, we didn't get players over the line. That's all well and good, but, you know, people sitting there saying, oh, I would have gone for this player, I would have gone for that player, this player's world class, that player's world class. I mean, it's all relative. It depends what you class as world class. You know, people saying about Kondogbia, well, you know, he's gone to Inter Milan, who are not even in Europe this season, and that's apparently a world class player, is it? I'm not sure it is.
I mean, I think we should concentrate on the players that we have got. We've got a really, really good squad. I don't see that. Of course, you all need to improve your squad, right? That's fair enough. But I think Arsene Wenger can build a team with what we've got, okay? And along the line, he will add players when they become available. I don't think I don't think he deliberately just doesn't buy players. There's always got to be a reason behind it. That's my opinion. And I honestly do think we've got enough to to trouble Chelsea and Manchester City this year. I really do. And you never know. We might go full blast and win it.
I think the thing is, Geoff, when we saw all of these youngsters being loaned out and whatnot, we thought, oh, okay, there's the backup. It looks like we might actually do some business. But I personally think that we've let go some youngsters this summer on loan that, you know, could have been around the squad. Isaac Hayden, would he not have had a shout?
He's a youngster, isn't he? It's very difficult to tell, you know. But again, you know, if he keeps hold of Isaac Hayden and you put him in for 3 or 4 games and he has a mare, 1, you kill the kid, his confidence has gone. 2, he turns it round on himself, Wenger, because everyone's still going to be quoting him anyway. So he's got to juggle it, you know, right. He's got enough. We're 2 players that we all know about that we think we're short at. We think, as supporters, we think we're short at. And I'm sure Wenger does as well. You know, he's not stupid. We're not stupid either. Well, it's a centre forward and a central midfield player. The centre forward, there's not. I haven't seen any top centre forwards move. There's just a shortage of them. So, you know, and as if we've missed, you know, 3 or 4 of them on the way through. They're just not. I haven't seen any move. You know, that's why United have played that mad money for that Marshall chap. Well, a centre midfield player, I understand, but there's a few more of those about. But if they're not available, Matt, what can we do?
No,
it's very difficult. We've got players that can cover in that area. Even if you people hating on Flamini and Arteta, you know, we might not even need them. You know, because you've got Ramsey, you've got Jack Wilshere coming back. We've got plenty of players in there that can do a job. You know, they're seasoned international footballers. There's no reason that they can't play.
What it is the...
I'll tell you what it is, Matt. Everyone's so crazy on just buying players, right? Just for the sake of buying players. I understand.
That's bollocks, Geoff.
But when you've got people on Twitter selling dreams, Geoff, you know, it's natural that the fans' hopes are going to get up.
Well, why listen to them, Matt?
But I mean, it's not your fault. I mean, say 60-70% of our fan base have been adamant that we're going to be signed Karim Benzema over the summer, and we've sat here on the last day and we've signed no one. I think that's where the frustration comes from. If Arsenal, Sim put it earlier in the podcast, if Arsenal were winning games, if we'd won every single game so far this season and we were playing well, the fact that we haven't signed anyone, I think it would go under the radar. I think people will be pissed off, but not to the state it has now.
Karim Benzema, right? You know, if you first of all, you get a rumour will come out. You know, Arsenal want to sign Karim Benzema. Yes, they may want to sign Karim Benzema, but it doesn't mean that they're going to capture Karim Benzema, because Real Madrid, first of all, they're going to have to want to sell him. If he isn't for sale and Benzema's happy at Real Madrid, what can you do? And if you
nothing. I'm not arguing that fact.
No, am I? I'm just saying. You know, if you believe what you want to believe, people put stuff out there. I mean, there's a whole host of new ITKs that have come onto the market this season. You believe what you want to believe. It's as simple as that. You don't have to take any notice of them. But you know, to get caught up in the hysteria, you know, why bother?
No, I do get your point, and I will say, Geoff, I respect you. You are a very, very loyal man indeed, because I'm not sure I would be able to sit there and take the stick that you have and bat it away as well as you have. Is there anybody else, we're getting to the time now, but is there anybody else that wants to say anything or has an opinion or talk about something that, yeah, like I said, we haven't talked about?
One person sent me a tweet saying that, could you please remind everybody that our owners are worth £18 billion. So by saying that there's no money, that kind of was it. Jamie Pierre said that, and so I think.
I don't think the issue ever was the money, Danny. I don't think it was
more money, and they're just not doing anything with it. I mean, the amount of players that have gone. If any of us were Arsenal manager, we could have easily got more than one player, and just hope to God that we don't have the injuries like we did last season. Because if we do, we're fucked. We haven't got backup in so many positions, other than maybe the 5 youth players that we brought through. But
and you know what? I remember sitting here pretty much this time last year on the Transfer Deadline Day podcast with some of you boys, and we said exactly the same thing last season. I think defensively as well. I think we were all quoting Geoff because we didn't sign a defender, and it turned out all right in the end, but it's still a gamble.
Only by a hair's breadth. We're falling apart in the league towards the end of the season.
Have
Man
we,
went back on one.
can I ask a question? Do you think we've improved?
Yes, the goalkeeper. Yeah.
Yes, we have.
Well, we've improved. So it's got to be a positive, isn't it? Who's to say they can't all gel together?
Have we improved more than Manchester City and Chelsea?
Are we ever going to improve more than Manchester City and Chelsea? But having said that, Mark,
in that case, you might as well pack up and go home.
No. Having said that, Mark, we don't know whether they've improved, do we? We're not at that point yet.
12 from 12 tells me City have improved.
Yeah, well, it's all speculation. We don't
sign De Bruyne and Sterling and not improve.
Yeah, but you don't you don't win the league on September the 1st, though, Mark. You do get teams that have a good start.
But 12 points take you a long way towards it.
Yeah, well, how many? What are we, 5 behind?
By that logic, then, are Chelsea out the title race?
Yeah, that's a very good point, Chris. It's the counterbalance to saying as well City are doing.
Well, we're 5 points behind. Yeah, is it 5 points or is it more than that? I can't remember.
We got 7, haven't we?
5 points behind. Well, that's nothing compared in the grand scheme of things. And what I'm saying to you is, it's all right, Manchester City signing these players. We don't know yet, do we, whether they are going to be able to fit in and they are going to gel. They've had a great start, granted, but let's see what happens. You never know.
I was going to say, Sterling looked pretty good to me when I watched City the other day.
Yeah, exactly. And on my Twitter feed, it was a mug when they signed him. Wow. So,
if there was going to be a question of the situation we're in currently with the transfers and that, I mean, yeah, you can have an opinion on the transfers. The question I would put more to us then is, why are we playing some of the players we've already got that have potential to be world class in the wrong positions? That would be more a level question that I would ask him and say, well, look, you've got arguably one of the best central midfield engines in the country in Aaron Ramsey. Whatever you're telling him, he's not listening, because he will not play down the right hand side. We've arguably got 5 players that want to play the number 10 role. You've got Jack, Santi, Aaron, Meza and Oxlade-Chamberlain, who wants to play centrally. So you've got all these players that play central. That would be the argument, and I would say it's more the tactical element that I would question over his seemingly not being able to be active in the transfer market. If the players aren't out there that he feels genuinely will benefit this side, I mean, I don't know many that of all the transfers that's been done, what's £862,750,000 worth of business, I could probably count on one hand the amount of players I genuinely take at Arsenal now. Genuinely.
I both probably agree.
So that would be more of a question for me.
I think it's about time we wrap up then. Thank you very much, boys, for joining me. It's been an emotional transfer deadline day window, but one in which I think we all expected a fruitless effort.
You've got to say boys and lady.
And lady. And Kate.
That's all right. He always forgets about me.
Oh,
don't.
Man.
No, I don't. I would ask the people, do you think Arsenal have had a good enough transfer window in a one-word answer? Or I would say, what do you think, the final thing we'll do tonight is, what do you think of Arsenal's transfer window in one word? So if you could sum up Arsenal's transfer window in one word, what would it be? Danny, I'll start with you.
Hopeful that we don't get injuries.
No, that's not one word,
no,
is it?
Hopeful, and I'm explaining why it's one word.
I didn't ask you to explain it, just one fucking word would have done.
Well, I'm hopeful, and I'm not telling you why.
Thank you very much, that's all I asked for. Okay, Kris?
Unsurprising.
Okay. That's a good one.
You're not going to tell us why?
No, he's not allowed to.
No, I can if you want, but...
No, you're alright, I was only hoping at Danny. Kate?
Deflating.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, that's good. Geoff?
Disappointed that we couldn't get the players that we maybe needed.
Geoff can explain because he's got thousands of followers.
And because he's had a beating for an hour.
Yes, exactly. Mark?
Gamble.
Oh, that's good.
Raj?
Shambolic.
Okay. And finally, Goonerholic.
I think Geoff's put it absolutely out there. Disappointing.
How about you, Gimli? I know you don't know many words that aren't swear words, but can you think of one?
Yeah, cunt. Right, but I'm going to go with what
Yes, you can.
put here. Diabolical, disaster, tepid, pathetic.
Oh, yeah, read what they're saying.
Aaqib, I don't know what you're smoking, but I'll have some of it. Aaqib has put great.
That's the best one. One word. Motherfucker. That doesn't make sense.
Lies.
Well, granted, it is one word. He just said it 3 times.
I'm scared to look in that comments box, mate. I can imagine what they're saying.
Oh, some of them are sticking up for you, Geoff.
Oh.
There's not much we can do.
Oh, Geoff, you've taken an absolute paste in the last hour.
He loved it, though.
Fuck's sake.
So we'll wrap this up then. Thank you to all of you that have listened throughout today. It's been an absolute pleasure to
Thank you
be
very much,
able
everyone.
to entertain you.
Some of our guests you'll be hearing again,
Thank you.
maybe.
Yes, definitely so. I'd like to thank everyone that's joined us, everyone that's listened, and everyone that's taken part. So that was a Bergkamp Wonderland transfer deadline day dissection special. Oh, I did it right. Thank you so much for listening, and keep it Arsenal. Good night.